Hey everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have spaced out radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. spacedoutradio.com, shop there today, and make yourself look good. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. It's going to be an awesome show tonight. We have Justin Bush, who is a writer and abduction experiencer. We're going to be talking about that. I don't think I've ever been abducted, but maybe I have. I don't know. We'll get into it and all that and a lot more here tonight. Hours 1 and 2. Then obviously hour 3, we're going to be with the After Hours wrap up. Our guy, Drew Banky, will be stepping in as usual with the other guy that we have in hour 3, Steve Stockton, Tells Untold Missing Person Mysteries. It's going to be an awesome show. Make sure you don't go anywhere. Stay right here. Stay right where you're at. And actually bring a friend. Bring a friend tonight. Let's go ahead and take a look and see who got the medal positions tonight, courtesy of Race Fan. Race Fan is always on top of it as usual. And the memo says Race Fan has the gold once again tonight. Also, we have Robert Lamoth Jr. coming in with that silver medal tonight. And we have T-Bone back in the building. Love it with the bronze tonight. It's going to be an awesome show. Let me go ahead and jump in the chat. Say hello to as many people as we can before the show comes in. Robert Lamoth Jr. Hey, from Connecticut. Hey, thanks for coming in, sir. We got Race Fan. Race Fan, thanks for coming in. T-Bone, Mr. Rob G. Appreciate you coming in. Roger Murray, happy St. Patrick's Day. Have you been released from the hospital, getting back home, kidney dialysis treatment. Roger Murray, healing energy out to you. Do appreciate you coming in, and happy St. Patrick's Day to you as well. Let's see. We got, Roger Murray. We have also Mel WD40 getting us lubed and get ready to get up into the show, saying hello and good evening. Hello, Mel WD40. Thanks for showing on up here. We got Miss Catherine Jones saying, hey, Rob G. Hey, Mr. Rob G. Hey, Miss Catherine Jones. Do appreciate you showing up tonight. We have Frankie B saying, good evening. Good evening, Frankie B. Thanks for coming on into the show. It's going to be an awesome one. You can bet that. Who else do we have out here? Let's move down the list. Eternity Eternal. Hi, Rob G. Hi, Eternity Eternal. Thanks for coming on in. We got my guy, C-Tech, Mr. Mateo in the building saying big ups to my brother, the one, the only Mr. Rob G. Hope all is well, my friend. It is, sir. And, man, I'll be reaching out to you soon, Mateo. Love that you came through tonight. Thanks for showing up. Who else do we have? Guy Merritt. Guy Merritt is in the building. Hi, Guy Merritt. Do appreciate you showing on up here tonight. Soccer Satan. Do appreciate you coming into the show. Who else do we have? Just missed someone here. Caged on the inside. Yeah, hey, Robbie G and everyone. Appreciate you showing on up. Cielo Azul, thanks for coming on in. Road Flare, do appreciate you showing up here. Xanos, thanks for coming into the show tonight. Should be an awesome one. And we're going to go ahead and get the podcast side started. Sorry if I didn't get to everybody. We'll cover it on the next break here. Welcome and thanks for coming on in. This is Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. Tonight will be an awesome show. We have our guest, Justin Bush, who is a abduction experiencer and also a writer for Hours 1 and 2. Then we have Steve Stockton, Tells Untold Missing Person Mysteries, Drew Banky with the After Hours wrap up, and UFO and Weird News. We're getting this party started right now. Let's go. Greetings, space travelers. Welcome home. You just tuned your dial to Spaced Out Radio, the only place where you can own the night. I'm your host, Mr. Rob G. And tonight, we'll be broadcasting on our terrestrial affiliates across North America, plus digitally on digital platforms all around the world. Don't forget, you can access our archives for absolutely free. YouTube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to follow us on X and Instagram at Spaced Out Radio and that Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where the options are endless. You can stay up to date with the SOR Newswire. You can get yourself some official Spaced Out swag. Plus, you can rock out to the man you hear right there, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot, and oh, so much more. We're going to have a great show here tonight. We have Justin Bush, who is an alien abductee experiencer and also a writer. We're going to have him for Hours 1 and 2, so it should be awesome conversation. Also, we'll have Steve Stockton, Tells Untold Missing Person Mysteries, along with Drew Banky. After Hours wrap up for hour number 3, guys. It's going to be great. Make sure you don't go anywhere. And like I said before, bring a friend tonight. Bring a friend. It would be awesome for you to do that. We're going to go ahead and jump right on into the show and welcome our guest here for the night, Mr. Justin Bush. Hi, Justin. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. When we talk about the phenomena, there's a few key components to it. There's the sighting, the occasional sighting that you see up in the sky. Some people, that's all they have. If you're lucky to have even that. Then you take it a step further. We have all the CE protocols. And, one has, I don't know if you consider it lucky enough. I guess we'll get into that here tonight, to have a face-to-face interaction with an extraterrestrial. We know they're here. We know these crafts land on the ground. We know they get out. And it'll be awesome to hear about that from you tonight. But as we start any other interview, first time here, we just want to kind of get to know who you are. So introduce us to Justin Bush. What actually led you to where you're at today, telling your story? And did you have experiences when you were young?
Yeah. I mean, it's a long story, obviously, but in 2009, I had my first abduction where I had severe long-term effects. So I had an abduction. After that, for several months, I was completely different. My mother noticed, people noticed, friends noticed. So that I call it like my awakening. That was a time when I couldn't deny that it was happening anymore. It had happened all throughout my childhood. It happened to my father. It happened. I wouldn't call my mother an abductee, but my mom certainly had encounters, experiences. But when I was younger, you try to brush them off. You try to move forward. You're filled with questions. You don't have any answers. When I was 21 in 2009, it was so. There was just too much evidence. I remembered far too much of what happened. There was too much evidence. There was another witness, my neighbor. So he woke up and and saw what happened. So when you have evidence, when clearly something happened, there's something physical that took place, it's really hard to kind of stuff it down. And so that was when I accepted that this happened. And it led me to kind of look at the things that happened in the past as well. And it kind of just brought it to the surface. But why I started to tell my story was because I had no desire to tell anybody. It was more I had to just kind of deal with it internally and on my own. But in 2018, the encounters started up again. I had moved to a small mountain town, and basically I had what I would call like a government run-in. So I had an intervention, a government kind of intervention, and it scared me so much. There's nothing more frightening. So you have a UFO encounter, and then the government shows up and essentially tells you to keep your mouth shut. That adds to the stakes and the fear. So I kind of kept silent until 2020, and for some reason in 2020, I had this overwhelming urge to write down my story. And so I wrote it down in 2020, but I still had no desire to tell anybody, or I wrote it all down. And a few years passed, and I kind of, I don't know, I had some personal issues. My girlfriend got sick, and I realized that I had this book that was just sitting there, and it was doing nothing. It wasn't helping me. It wasn't hurting me. It was just wasting space. And it was providing nothing to no one. It was just sitting there. So I decided to publish it in 2024. But yeah, I mean, it was a lot of little things along the way that just kind of, if something happens to me, my neighbor died a few years ago, and I remember watching them throw his stuff away. And, he didn't have relatives that wanted, so they went through and threw all of his things away. And I was standing there watching them throw all this stuff into the dumpster. And I just thought, I was like, if I die today or tomorrow, everything, all the stuff that I wrote down, everything that happened to me is going to go in the trash, and not a single human being will ever know about it. And it will just be all that suffering, and all the stuff I went through will be for nothing. So that was kind of the impetus that led me to, I might as well tell people. But I had to come to terms with that.
That was awesome. That's awesome. And yeah, it's, that's one reason why I tell experiencers that they should tell their stories. Like some people, I have a show where experiencers come on stage and similar to this, and they talk about their experiences, and they say, I've never told anyone this is the first time. And I'm like, all stories need to be told. Every story, don't feel like your story is not as important as the next person's story. It should definitely go on record, and it's just adds to the data that we have within this community to try to figure this thing out. So I'm glad that you saw that and you looked at it in that way. Now, having this experience starting as a child, so was it right off the bat, were you just on a UFO in your first experience, or did you have a lead up to this? Did you understand what was going on at the time?
No, I didn't. I kind of, but not really. So this goes back to my earliest memories. My mother and my dad separated when I was about 4 years old. So I kind of know where, I tell people I was either 3 or I just turned 4 the first time I saw one of these creatures. My mom and my dad got in a fight, and my mom left. And I was in the bedroom looking out the window, hoping that she would pull back up the driveway. And I saw movement, and I saw this creature, and it got it popped its head up in the window and got several inches from me, and it started to talk, and I got really scared, and I just blacked out and woke up the next day. And I really didn't understand what happened. I don't know if I was abducted. I have no idea what happened. But that was my very first time seeing one of these creatures, but it just kept happening. Like 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old. You know, when I was 5, my dad and I were driving, and he basically, we were going down to, there was a kind of a dead end road, and there are fields on each side, and we're driving, and I saw this light, and I just said, "Hey, Dad, what's that?" And my dad's kind of I don't know. I should have asked you. Can you cuss on here?
No.
No. Okay. I should have asked before. So my dad is kind of a smart mouth. And so he kind of looks over and he sees the light and he goes, "Oh, it's a ghost." And he keeps driving. But the way the road is, we keep getting closer to it. So he starts looking over and then he mumbles to himself and he goes, what in Sam heck is that? You know, he used more colorful language. But when we got about 100 yards from it, he stopped. It was an object. It was probably floating about 20 feet off the ground, and it had a bright light, and you could just kind of make out the shape of it. But the light was too bright that you couldn't really tell so much. You could just see it was kind of hovering there. So he stopped, and this thing came around the field, and it made first it turned a light on, and it shined this kind of spotlight, almost like a laser, into the field, into the trees, and then it swept it from our right to our left. And then it made these two abrupt movements. It made an abrupt movement to our left and then an abrupt movement towards us. And it stopped, I'm guessing about 15, 20 feet from the side of my father's truck, and it landed.
Wow.
Door opened up. They got out. They surrounded the truck. One came to my side, two came to his, and they took him. But if you asked me at that age, like if you asked me what they were or who they were, or you said it was a spaceship, or I would have never said that. I had no idea. Like that, the one that came to my side talked to me. So I turned my back, and he was just a few inches on the other side. He was almost exactly 4 feet tall. His head was just above the window of the truck. And he started to talk to me. And I literally called him an old man because he was bald. And when he talked to me, he showed me the pyramids of Egypt. Wow. And he was explaining to me, I was like, "Who is this?" And he was like, I'm 800 years old, basically. And then he showed me the pyramid. I don't know why he did that, but I think he was trying to, thought projection or telepathy. I think he was trying to tell me that he was just an old person, like he had been around for some time. But I don't know if he was really 800 years old. I don't know if, that's just something that happened, So I had no idea who he was. To me, I just called him a little old man. I asked him for my father, and he told me that they would bring my father back soon and not to worry. My dad, when they released my dad panicked. I mean, he almost crashed. He literally drove his truck off the road. We jumped the ditch into a field, went sideways, jumped the ditch into the road. And he pulled in so fast to our driveway that he literally slid like 30 feet past where he parks, and he almost hit our house. He's just screaming. He's just going, oh my God, we're gonna hit the house. He's panicking. So yeah, all this stuff started as young as I can remember. It's kind of always been there. It's kind of periodic. Sometimes it'll be several times and then nothing happens for a while. But it's really followed me to, but I never thought of it at that age as like aliens, UFOs. When I was, the first time that I remember, there was two times that I saw like a craft. One was on the ground about 20 feet away, but then I blacked out. And then when I woke up, they were lowering me to the ground at the end of our driveway, probably about 30 feet off the ground. And I guess you could call that like a UFO spacecraft, but I was young. I was scared. I had no idea who they were or what they wanted. I didn't understand the context. I called them witches for a long time because my grandmother told me this story. I was eating at her house. My mom and dad separated, so she watched me a lot. And I was eating lunch, and she said, good little boys have to eat all their lunch. And she said, because if they don't, the witches will come and bake them into a blackbird pie. And I was like, what's a witch? Like, I didn't even know what that was. And she told me that a witch had big black eyes, and they could fly, and they could do black magic, and that they took little boys and girls, and if they were bad. And so, when you're getting abducted by this creature with big black eyes, that, to you, it's they're doing magic. I mean, the technology that they have, the crafts, the medical tools, I mean, it's magic to us. Like, it's just so advanced. So to a little kid, I literally called them witches until I had an encounter when I was 11, and I stopped calling them that, because at that age I learned about rocket ships, and I learned about the moon and space travel. And so that's when I stopped calling them witches. I literally watched them fly off. And I remember it was the first time in my life thinking, how do they beat the speed of light? I literally watched them, and I was like, how do they go faster? I don't understand. Like, I couldn't understand how they were able to do that, but I knew that they could, but I just didn't understand how. So it kind of evolved, even at 21, I tell people I don't know where they're from. I don't know if they're time travelers or they're from Mars, or I don't know. I don't know what they want. I can only tell you what I saw and what they did. I can't tell you who they are. So I most of the time I don't even call them extraterrestrials. I usually just call them grays, because that's what everybody calls them. But yeah, it's gone on for a long time. Just over and over. And I haven't had any encounters for a while now, but I tell myself, like, oh, maybe it's done. And then out of nowhere, you're driving home one night, and this thing comes down, and I don't know when it'll stop. I assume it'll stop one day, but it's just one of those things that's just periodic. You don't know when it's going to happen. It involves itself with you. It kind of scrambles your life up, and then you're left just standing there confused, like, why? Who are they? What do they want? But yeah, it's been there. It's been there my whole life, as far as I can tell.
Let me ask you this: have you? So let's go back to the incident with your father.
Oh, sure.
So you stated as well that he was an experiencer on some level. Obviously,
Yeah.
that sighting, and then potentially were there others for him, like
Oh,
prior
yeah.
to that?
Oh, yeah. He doesn't talk about it too much, but yeah, he's had others. Let me think. I was with him 1, 2, 3, that one night, 4, 5, 6, 7 times when something strange happened. My dad is kind of a hard nut to crack. When I was a kid, like, okay, so he got abducted that night. The next day, he like threatened me, and he was like, don't you tell anybody. And my dad's he's a really stern guy. So, you can imagine being a kid. He was not nice about it. He told me not to tell my teachers, my friends, not to tell the school, not to tell he said, don't even tell family members. He said, if you tell anybody about this, he said, the government will come and they will take me away, and I'll never see you again. Basically, I'm paraphrasing, but basically somebody will come and take me away. And he said, they'll lock me in a loony bin and you'll never see me again. When I got older, he started to talk about some of this with us. And he told me about one occasion where he was in the living room, everybody was asleep, and he was reading the Bible, which he did a lot back then. and he said he had an encounter that this thing stuck its head through a wall, like a gray alien. Yeah, I mean, he describes it exactly what we saw together. He just said he was by himself. There was another occasion he described what he called. He said it was either Jesus or it was he said he thought it might have been a woman in a dress. He said, but they had like a long white flowing kind of dress. He said he came out to the kitchen, he grabbed something to eat, and when he turned around, this figure was standing in the hallway. I was there that night, so I remember what happened. I was in my bedroom. So he sees this figure and he chases it down the hallway. It turns and it goes towards my bedroom. He bursts into my room, rips the door open, turns all the lights on, and he just starts ripping the house up. Like he looks under the bed, he runs in the bathroom, he ripping everything open, the cabinets. He looked behind the washer and dryer for some reason. Like he pulled them out and looked behind him. And I was just like, Dad, that's all I said to him. And he said, I'm just checking on you. I'm just checking on you. But he checked the back door. He didn't tell me what he saw until years later. Wow. But my mom saw the same thing, the same lady with this long white gown or whatever. My dad said it was like long dark hair. And he said, I don't know if it was Jesus or if it was a woman. He's like, but it was in the house, and he was like, it looked just like, it was just a person. And he said, but when I ran back there, I couldn't find it anywhere. He said, the back door was locked. He said, there was nobody there. My mom said, when I was younger, we had a crib kind of area. She said that she would hear me crying in the middle of the night, and she would go and turn around the corner into that room. And she said that the same woman would be there. And she said, as soon as she would start to panic, she would just disappear right in front of her. They also said that periodically that there was a rocking chair my mom fed me in, like she nursed. Mm-hmm. And they said often that rocking chair would start rocking on its own. And my aunt, I'm not sure if it was my mom's, I believe it was my mom's sister, but she came over one time and that rocking chair started rocking on its own. And then she panicked. She said she would never come back in the house ever again. She would never come to our house. So this weird stuff, the UFO thing, it's been my whole life. My dad has seen it. There was another time when I was 11, we were at a drive-in movie theater. I got taken. I walked away into the woods and I got abducted. And they let me go several hours later. And dozens of people were there. And this craft came up over the trees. It flew very slowly over top of everyone. And then it made a right angle turn and just shot into space, like in a fraction of a second. My dad was there for that. Yeah, I mean, he said he's had his own encounters by himself. And I know that there's been multiple times where he and I have been together when something really strange has happened. But yeah, I don't know. He just doesn't talk about it too much. So it's hard to say how many times,
That's interesting. And I would love, man, is he still with us?
Yeah, he's still around. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, good. Because maybe that day will come, here in the future where you kind of get to get some of those answers from him. Because I would love to know what his analysis was of this phenomena, and even your mother as well. And we'll kind of get into that. I don't know if you have the answer to that or not, but we're going to go ahead and take our first pause for the night, our first break, as we get ready to get into more conversation here with Justin Bush. It's already been pretty epic and spooky as well, kind of elements of this story. So if you guys don't want to miss the rest of this, make sure you come right back here. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. We will see you back here in just a moment. right, we are clear. We are clear, and we have 5 minutes. So if you need to do anything, you can go ahead and take the time to do this. I'm going to say hello to some of the people that just came into the audience, which would be Dread G5. Thank you for coming on in. I think I said hi to Guy Merritt. The Andromedan, thank you for showing up here tonight. We do appreciate you. Who else do we have that came in late or who I missed earlier? Mike Bothwell. Mike Bothwell, thank you for coming on in. Saying National Canada Friendship Day in the state of Colorado. Is that a real thing, Mike Bothwell? Let me know. Let me know for sure. Let me see. Richard Minnick coming on in. Appreciate you showing on up. Gizmo. Hey, Gizmo. Thank you for showing on up tonight. Let's see. Who else do we have? Let's see. G5 to Mothman. I don't think I said hello earlier, but thanks for coming in. Leechum, the spicy lizard. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Thanks for coming on in, Leechum. Appreciate you showing on up to the show tonight. Kitty Catty Wag, thanks for showing up here tonight. I saw you post the other day on the show, so I know technically you have the gold tonight. So thanks for coming on in. Who else do we have in the audience here? Big Logic. I don't know if I remember saying your name, but like, share, subscribe, and smash the like button. That's exactly what we would like for you guys to do. Right now, we're on break, so take a moment, go right on out, hit the little thumb button right beneath the screen. I don't know what you're watching on, but go ahead and hit the like. Let us know you like the show because it does do something to the algorithm and kind of gets the show out there. Appreciate it. Let's see. What else do we have? Woo Riders DG. Appreciate you showing on up. Let's see here. Egyptian Princess. Thanks for coming on in. Phineas Coathanger from X. Thank you for coming on in. We appreciate you. There's a little heart button, I think, on X where you could hit that and say, hey, I like it. And then the little share button to share it to your friends and family. Could you do that for us, Phineas? We would love that. I appreciate you. Thanks for coming in as well. Let's see. Emperor Penguin snuck in here. Thanks for coming on in. And I think, nope, J. Paul, thanks for coming in. A lot of new names too. So let me kind of let you guys know this is the After Hours radio show. So we do this show Saturday and Sundays. We start at 8 p.m. Pacific. The show runs until 11 p.m. Pacific. We have Dave Scott, who conducts a Woo Train Monday through Friday, which is 9 p.m. Pacific until midnight Pacific. And we have Element 115 on Fridays from 8 p.m. Pacific until 9 p.m. Pacific. So 7 days a week, there is something going on right here on Spaced Out Radio. So we'd appreciate it if you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We would love to see you guys back here. And yeah. Also, as you may know, most of you know, we will be having questions posed in the second hour of the show tonight. So if you do post any before, I'll keep a lookout. I might miss them, I might not. It depends if we're in conversation here. And but we will post those at the end of the second hour. And yeah, Joe Monk, he snuck in here and said something strange here. What did you say? Said Rob loves soccer. I think soccer's cool. We have a FC club in Sacramento, the Sacramento Republic FC. And I'm kind of getting in a little bit of soccer. So you're not wrong. You're not wrong, Joe Monk. I hate hockey, though. Oh, I hate hockey. So, yeah. So we got about 1 minute left before we come back here. And let's see. And where are you joining us from, Justin? What state?
Virginia.
Virginia. Okay.
Kind of northern Virginia.
Okay. Yeah, I think we have a friend, Science Bob. I believe he's in Virginia. I know he's
Yeah.
somewhere in the right. Oh yeah, you know Science
Yeah, I
Bob?
think you're right.
Yeah.
I think oh my gosh, didn't the one of Science Bob's friends, the female, she used to be a MUFON investigator for a while. Was it Linda? Didn't she? I think she might have used to live around here, and then she just recently moved to North Carolina, I think. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think I know what you're talking about. Here we go. We're coming right back. All right, everybody. Welcome back. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show. We are in the bottom half of the first hour right here with our guest, Justin Bush, who's an abductee experiencer. We are just getting into some really great conversation here. Make sure if you missed any of it, you can hop in our archives, which are absolutely free. YouTube.com/@spacedoutradio. In case you didn't know, as we go ahead and get ready to jump right back up into the conversation here with Justin. So, Justin, we were kind of getting into conversation before, and you were telling us about some of the experiences that you have shared with your father at a young age. And, I was kind of asking, the question on if he's still with us, which you confirmed yes, and that he really didn't like to talk about the subject. And I kind of pointed out that I hope that you guys get that moment where you can really sit down and kind of hammer this out. What did you have you been able to speak to your mother about this at all, or just anyone within the family about this subject?
Yeah, no, I mean, my father and I have had a few conversations about it over the years. Our relationship has always been pretty strained. But as far as my mother goes, she passed away 4 years ago or so. So I got to talk to her. My mom was much more forthcoming. In fact, I found out some of the things that happened to my dad from my mom. So I lived with my mom in my early 20s when I had the UFO encounter. And when I told my mom about it, in fact, she came to me. She was like, what's going on with you? Like, you've completely changed. Like, you have to tell me what happened. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she was like, you've changed. Like, what happened to you? And I finally kind of told her. I didn't want to tell anybody. And she told me at that time, she was like, oh, this happened to your father. And I didn't even believe her. I was like, what, like my mom embellishing but years later I asked my father and he was like, yeah, that happened. And this happened and this happened. So that's how I found out about a few of the things that happened to my dad when I wasn't around. I only knew about the ones where I was there. My mother, however, my mom told me that she thought they were my guardian angels. This is her exact words. She said that I think that they're looking out for you, and like keeping an eye on you, like watching out for you. My dad said the exact opposite. He was like, these are demons. If you ask him, right, you say like, well, what did they look like? He'll describe to you, he'll say they were wearing a black jumpsuit and they only had 4 long fingers and the big black eyes. And, he will literally describe to you the picture perfect gray alien. And then if you go, well, what do you think it was? He'll say it was a demon. I even questioned him one time where I was like, well, why would a demon need a spaceship? Like, why would a demon need to come down from the sky in a flying vehicle? Why would the government show up and threaten your family because you saw a demon? You know what I mean? Why would they dispatch a helicopter to chase a demon? It just doesn't, so I think it scared him so bad that demon is like, it's all he's got. I think he knows the ridiculousness of calling them aliens or demons or angels or whatever you want to call them. But it's one of those things where I think they traumatized him so much. It's kind of like a big F you. where it's like their demon, even if they aren't biblical demons, even if they aren't, spiritual demons, like their little, I call them, I mean, I can't even say it. But I have my own special name for them too, because they're really traumatic, scary. They do some pretty horrific stuff to people. I don't think he actually believes that they're demons in the religious sense. I think he just calls them that as like a derogatory term, because he recognizes that, it'd be really weird for a demon to have a spaceship. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So yeah, I've talked to him some, but I just don't like to put words in his mouth. Same thing with my mother. She's gone now. The last thing she said is she hoped that they were looking out for me. Like she was like, they follow you your whole life, and hopefully they're looking out for you, type of thing. She's either right or she's wrong, right? But she's gone, and I don't want to, I don't know. I mean, I think some people do that to comfort themselves. It's such a scary situation that it just feels so much better to say angels and demons than it does to say, I have no idea what that is. I don't know where it came from. I don't know what it wants, but it's scaring the heck out of me. So it's kind of, but yeah, I'm sure my dad and I will have our day one day where maybe we can, I'm sure it'll happen one day.
Yeah, and it's cool to hear the way that you have perceived, what it is that they have said in the past about these things. Because, when you were saying what your mother stated, it just resonated with me and made a lot of sense. Like, these things are with you your whole life. And then the way that, her depiction of them being guardian angels, and then your father with describing them to the T with the jumpsuits, and a lot, just essentially the way that a lot of people describe them as well. Did you have you heard of abductees it all being a part of a bloodline? Have you heard that whole analogy where they said if you're an abductee, likely your parents were as well, and so on and so forth?
Oh yeah, I've heard that, and I would argue that's probably true for the most part. I mean, it can't be 100% true, right? The abduction in and of itself, like flying down, landing somewhere, and grabbing some person, most likely, even if they do try to follow bloodlines, there's going to be a certain amount of kind of a mixed bag of grabbing a person here or there that might not have. There was this wonderful story. There was this guy. He had a farm. He saw a light outside. He went out there. He said he didn't know what it was. And then these creatures come up and they grab him. And he's terrified. He doesn't know what they are. They did some tests to him. And then he said that they told him that he didn't have what they wanted, what they were looking for. And then they released him. And then they walked away. And they flew away. They got in that little thing, whatever it was, and then they flew away. And he never saw him again, ever again. That's kind of the way I look at it. They clearly, every time they take me, it's always some sort of test. It's always taking blood, semen, skin scrapings, mouth scrapings. They're clearly looking for something. Now, whether that's monitoring bloodlines or whether it's something genetic or, it could be, I mean, who knows what it could actually be.
Right.
But clearly there's some sort of interest in, they abduct like my grandfather had an experience. I don't usually talk about it because he didn't tell me enough. So I just don't talk about it. But there was one time when he saw a UFO. I know for a fact he did. He told me about it. And I just so happened to be there as well. I wasn't with it. Like, just imagine, like, you have a house and you got one person on this side, but they both see the same thing.
Right.
So my grandfather and I had an encounter together, but we weren't with each other. My dad was there, my brother was there, my grandfather was next door at his house, and he saw the same thing. So, you know, if you got your grandfather, your mother, your father, your brother, you know, it clearly seems to be following bloodlines. So it doesn't surprise me at all. You know, I just don't know what they're looking for. But whatever it is, they clearly, they have a good idea of it, clearly. Because if they're telling people, like, you know, we need this blood from you, and then another guy, they test him and they go, you don't have it, thanks, but no thanks. Like that shows intent. So I think the bloodline is probably, I think it's mostly true. They might be taking samples, you know, outside of those bloodlines, looking for whatever they're looking for, and if they don't find it, they just move on, is what I assume.
Yeah, that I could see that. I could definitely see that. And you know, you stated earlier, you described. Well, let me start here, because there are a lot of experiencers who have been abducted who describe their experiences as you know, non-intrusive, kind of love and light, sort of this great feeling about it, and they weren't afraid, and they would not be afraid if it were to happen again. I heard you describe your encounter, or at least one of them, as traumatic. So what could you kind of go through that particular experience step by step, the night it happened, what happened, you know, by detail? Because I want to see the other side of it, because I don't think we hear enough of, you know, the traumatic perspective of what it is these things are actually doing to people.
Right. So I don't, it's kind of, I have plenty of ones that where I don't remember anything really, you know, like, I'll give you an example. I was walking one night and I heard a noise. I was in a cornfield, so I couldn't see anything. So I started running, you know, just instinctively, like you have something that's it sounded like people running, like little kind of pitter patter of running. But it sounded like it was surrounding me. So I just ran, and you know, I thought like maybe it was dogs or something, you know, who knows. But then I blacked out, and when I came to, I was standing probably about 100 yards away at the edge of the field, and I had this overwhelming feeling like I was being stared at. And so when I spun around, there was a creature probably about 30 feet away from me. There was a 4-ish foot tall gray alien, and the moment that I locked eyes with it, I just panicked. It was like, oh my God, you know. And then it turned, it made a 180 and about face, and it walked into the field. And the craft was sitting there. I didn't notice it because I was looking. It was a few feet. It had smushed down the corn and was sitting at the edge of the field. It turned around, went. This thing lifted up. It made a U-turn and shot off. I don't know what happened that night. All I know is my fear, trauma. You know, I was scared. A lot of my experiences are like that, where you don't, I really don't know what happened this time or that time. And I have a handful that I would call kind of like in the middle, where they weren't scary, but they were kind of weird. There was one time I think it was 2016. So I went outside to go get something for my truck, and I went around the house. And as soon as I come around the backside of the house, I looked up, and about probably like 40 feet away, there was a creature, a gray alien. It was standing a few feet off to the side of my shed. And we have this big, powerful light out there. So it was kind of its face was kind of half enveloped in light from the outside light, where the shadow of the shed was kind of over part of it. And I froze, and I expected to be, I was like, oh my God, it's going to abduct me. What do I do? You know, like I'm expecting to get taken. And then all of a sudden I was like, I'm going to grab it. I don't know why. I just was like, I'm gonna jump on it and grab it. So I just started taking off running. It waited until I was probably about 20 feet away before it turned and started running. And I chased it behind another property. There's a fence into the darkness. There was a bunch of trees back there. And I got close. I probably got at least 12-ish feet from it. Like I was gaining on it. And I almost jumped and tried to dive and grab it. But I was in my mind, since I was gaining on it, I was like, oh, I'm gaining on it. So I'm going to be, if I just have to wait a few seconds and I can just grab it by the shoulders. It made a sharp turn behind this property. I was only maybe 3 paces behind it. And then when I cut that corner, I look and I don't see it. The moment it turned that corner, it was silent. Like I could hear its feet, as I'm chasing it. It sounds just like you're chasing your brother or whatever. The moment it cut that corner, dead silence. So I cut the corner and I'm looking for it. I'm like it disappeared. I'm thinking like it disappeared. So I turn around and I didn't realize it was hiding. There was a small cluster of trees and it was hiding right there. I just missed it. And so I heard something behind me. And when I spun back around, it was jumping a 4-foot tall fence that separated the property. So it grabbed that fence and just similar to a human being, it slung its leg over and it ran away. I wouldn't call that, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't super traumatic. It wasn't the worst thing in the world. Probably one of my worst ones, I don't remember what happened at all. About 3 years ago, all I remember is them cutting my leg open that night. And the next day I woke up with an incision on my calf muscle. And for some reason, I was so traumatized. Like I knew that they had done surgery to me. I knew I had been taken, but I had no memory of how, I just don't remember. I remember seeing a creature in the doorway and then I blacked out and then I woke up somewhere else and they're doing this surgery. I black out and I wake up in bed with this like 2-inch long incision on the inside of my leg. That was probably the most traumatic one, but I don't remember anything. Like it's, I don't know why it was so traumatic. I wonder about it all the time. But in 2009, that's the one that I remember the most. I remember probably the most amount of time from that entire abduction. And I was in the basement. Technically, we got a house together. So my mom has a bedroom upstairs and I'm in the basement. It was just her and I and my dogs. So I'm watching TV. I hear a sound. And so I sit up and swing my leg off the bed to go kind of check it out. So I yell and I was like, well, maybe it's one of my dogs. Maybe they snuck downstairs. And I was like, hey, get out of there. And I stopped and waited and there was nothing. So I turn around to go. So in my mind, I'm like, oh, my dog. Okay, so I hear a noise. I'm like, my dog must have snuck downstairs. Maybe I wasn't paying attention and it's doing something. So when I jumped up to go around, I'm thinking like, oh, I'm going to yell at my dog and kick him out of there, whatever he's doing. The moment I turn around, like 6 feet away from me is this creature. And it's coming at me really fast. So I tried to reach over and grab this knife that was on my end table. And I was just thinking, like, I got to stab this whatever this thing is. I got to protect myself. So I'm thinking, like, I just got to stab this lady. The moment that thought kind of crossed my head, so we were locking eyes. She threw her hands up and stepped back like this and told me telepathically, she was like, I don't want to die. I don't want to get killed. And she was thinking about me stabbing her neck and dying. And so she threw her hands up and then I realized that I couldn't move. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm frozen. My hand is just hovering over the knife. Like I've got one leg off the bed. I'm almost completely off the bed. I'm have my butt on the corner of the bed, and I'm just standing there frozen. So in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, I can't move. The moment that she read my thought, like the moment that she realized I was frozen, she stepped forward. She put her hands down and stepped forward and yelled at me. And she said, "Violence will not be tolerated. We mean you no harm." But in like a booming voice. So at that point, I'm frozen, and this other creature appears, and it was like a randomized, like you know those old pixelated transitions. So imagine you have a flashlight and you're shooting out light, right? But what you're shooting in front of you is a picture of what's behind you.
Okay.
It was like when this creature turned that technology off, it was like a random digital transition until I could see him. It's very hard to describe. But anyway, as I'm watching this creature appear through this pixelated thing, I'm in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, what is that? He literally read my thought and said camouflage, and he like telepathically told me that this was a technology. He had touched his hand like this across his chest, and he was telling me that there was some sort of device inside of his hand, and he was putting it up to his chest to turn this projection-based camouflage off. But then he threatened me. So he answered my question when I was like, oh my God, what is that? He was like, camouflage. And then he was like, angry he wanted me to let me know that he was like, maybe not angry, I don't know, violent, like he was ready to be violent. I don't know how to explain that to you. Like he wasn't mad, but it was like, I will kill you type of thing. He didn't say that. He just was like, he turned to the other creature who's 3 feet away from him, and they had an open communication. I could hear everything. He said to her, "We should kill him," and she was like, "No, that's it's not necessary." And he was like, "He's a threat to our mission and our crew." That's what he said. And then she goes, "No, he's not going to be violent with anybody. He's not going to hurt anybody." And she turned to me and she was like, "Are you?" Like she knew that I was listening. Like this was like an open, I don't even know how to describe it. Maybe it was a bit of theater. Like they wanted me to know that they would kill me if I continued to be violent.
Wow.
Maybe, I don't know. But she turned to me and she was like, he's not going to hurt anybody. Are you? And that's when she turned and looked at me, and I was like, no. I mean, they beat me. I was completely frozen. I was terrified. I had no idea, what they wanted or why. I hadn't seen him, and last time I had an encounter was 7 years before that. So about 6 years, something like that. So this was a surprise. I was terrified, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do anything. And she told me that she was an anthropologist. This is the way she described it, that it was her job to make contact. Her job was to make contact with the human being for this program, and that she was, like an anthropologist, she was an expert on humans. He told me at that point, he's slightly shorter male, he told me that he was the military liaison with this mission. He was the highest ranking person on the mission, and that he was in control of security for this mission. And he told me that he would kill me if I endangered the people or the crew, that he would kill me and he would feel nothing.
Okay, stop right there. We're going to continue this on the backside of the next break, guys. Very detailed encounter here by Justin Bush, and I want to make sure we get to hear it all. So don't go anywhere. Make sure you're back right here if you do.
That move the needle.
You're listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio. You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, we are clear. And yeah, we'll pick up right on that story right when we come back. But I'm going to play a commercial, and I'll see you in about 5 minutes here.
All right.
All right. Yes. All right, everyone. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show, after hour number 2. We're going to be jumping right back into the conversation here with our guest, Justin Bush. He was right in the middle of the story, getting really interesting. We're going to jump right back into it. We have about 20 seconds here. Definitely want to make sure that you guys pose your questions this half hour. Put them in caps so I can see them, and we'll pose those to Justin on the back half of the hour as we go ahead and bring him back on stage. We got about 5 seconds left before we go to radio, and here we go. All right, everybody, welcome back. Spaced Out Radio after hour number 2. We are back with our guest, Justin Bush. He was in the middle of an awesome story. We're going to make sure that we get to finish that up here. Remember, if you missed any of the conversation tonight, you can jump into the archive. Why? It's absolutely free. YouTube.com/@spacedoutradio, where the options are endless. Make sure you go ahead and do that. We'd appreciate it. Also, hit that like button as well if you're on YouTube. As we get right back into the conversation, Justin, you were right in the middle of a great story. You were at a point where you were saying they might kill you. I think it's right about where you were. I don't know if that jogs your memory, but go ahead and pick right back up.
Yeah, no, I'll never forget. I'll never forget what happened. So he basically was. He was telling me, if you continue to be violent, I'll kill you, because it's what I'm programmed to do. And it's really hard to explain what he did, but he showed me emptiness. Like, I always tell people, like a void, like almost like a sociopath. Like, he will kill me and he will feel nothing. And the moment he said that to me, like, he will do it because it's what he's trained to do, and he won't feel a thing. Like, he'll do it because it's his job. The word robot came to mind. Like, he was like, I didn't want to call him a robot because he was clearly biological. But it was like he was, I don't know, manipulated or programmed or trained, like a mercenary or something like that. But maybe android is the better word for it. But at that time, so he tells me he'll do it, and I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm not, they beat me, so I can't even move. I'm completely frozen from the neck down. At that point, the third creature came up from a hallway. It's hard to explain, but there was a hallway that led to my closet. So it literally came out of the back of my closet down this. It's just it's just the way the house was set up. So it walks through this little hallway and walks out and stands next to the I call him number 1 because he said he was in charge. So when it came up, my immediate first thought was like, who are you, kind of thing. Like, and the third creature told me it was a male, and it was an assistant, and it said that it was there to help the other two to capture me, and that it was the person that made the noise. So it made a distraction, so that way they could capture me without me hurting anyone. And the moment it told me that, I got really angry, like, at it. I was like, because it tricked me. I mean, it was, this creature is basically telling me that it made a noise so I would turn my back so that the female could get close enough to I don't even know, like, to shut me down or anesthetize me, or however you want to call it. At that point, the female told me I had to go. And I was like, I don't want to go. And she said, you have to. And the moment she said, you have to, I stood up and started to do what she told me to do. And I'm literally, in my mind, I'm like, why am I doing what she, like, I'm literally following her orders. Like I'm a robot. So she gave me an order and I just started to follow it. Number 1 got in front of me. I fell in line behind him, and the other 2 fell in line behind us in a single file line. And I followed number 1 up the stairs. As we were coming up the stairs, my mother's room is on the right. And I immediately was like, what about my mom? Like, I was worried about her. And I was worried what they might do to her. And number 1 told me not to worry, that they had left somebody with her that would watch over her until they brought me back. And so as we came up the stairs, over in my mom's bedroom is one of the creatures, and he's just standing 2 feet away from her. She's laying on her back. Her mouth is wide open. She's completely asleep, and he's just staring at her. And I remember thinking how funny it was, because it was like if I told you to go look at a paint dry and you just walk up to the wall and just standing there. It looks so silly that he's just like it was like somebody told him to watch her, and he was like, okay, and he's just watching her. So it kind of, I don't know if that's what he was actually doing. I mean, they have tremendous telepathic powers, so for all I know, he could be talking to her in her dreams or something, I don't know. But I just thought it was kind of comical for a second. We walked through the kitchen, out the back door. The moment I got to the back door, I saw all these flashing lights. About 20 yards outside the back door, the craft, it looked kind of, I don't want to call it saucer shaped. I usually call it tic tac shaped, but it was bulging in every direction, kind of like a perfectly symmetrical egg. It was probably 40-ish feet long. I'm guessing maybe 12 to 14 feet tall, maybe. So I follow them across the yard. I have no socks on. I have no shoes on. I can feel the grass, I can feel the outside air. We walk across, and these lights are so blinding that you can't really tell the shape of the craft. They're too bright. But when we got about 15 or so feet to the craft, the lights weren't blinding anymore. You could see them as individual beams of light. Like if I had a flashlight and you were standing close enough, you could see like it's just a beam. But if I shined it right in your face, it would blind you. Once we got about 15 or so feet, you could see these flashing lights from all over the skin of the craft. And it was like a laser, almost like a laser in brightness, but they were coming out in a conical shape from the craft. I couldn't see any, like if you saw like a bus, you could see where the light comes out. They were coming from like a pinpoint from the skin of the craft, and you literally couldn't see any lenses or anything. But the craft curved, and it was this big kind of egg-shaped cylinder. When number one walked up in front of me, in the darkness, I thought that it was a ramp. It was my first inclination that it was some kind of ramp. As I was walking up behind him, I tripped. And I fell right into him, and I put both my hands on him. I knocked into him pretty good. He didn't fall down, but he kind of stumbled forward. My first reaction was like, I couldn't believe how heavy he was. Like he was much more dense and much heavier than I suspected. I'm guessing 50 to 80 pounds, but they're so skinny that I just didn't, I don't know. I thought they would be much lighter. His clothes that he was wearing were like woven, but they felt very synthetic, almost like a plastic, like a woven plastic. And then there was a cushion, like maybe half an inch, 3/4 of an inch of really soft cushion. And then I could feel like the bones in his back, like his shoulder blades. But anyway, I tripped into him and knocked into him. And then I was like, what did I trip over? And I'm looking down, and I could see the steps. I thought it was a ramp, but it was really stairs. And the steps were really small. They were maybe only 6 inches wide by like six inches tall. They certainly weren't made for, like my foot couldn't step on one step. Like my heel would hang off. They were really small steps. So I tripped into him, and then he stepped a few feet forward, and he turned around in the doorway. It was an arched doorway. And I guess I should tell you, this entire egg-shaped thing was silver, like a pewter silver color. So anyway, I was scared, and I was like, oh, he's gonna kill me. He's gonna think I did it on purpose. It was my first thought, like, because he had just threatened me like 2 minutes before. So when he turned around, he locked eyes with me. He let me know instantly that I wasn't in any trouble. He understood that I tripped, and he knew it wasn't intentional. But then in my mind, I was thinking, I was like, why did they build it this way? The steps, like, I didn't understand why they built it this way. And it was just in my mind. And he was like, well, we have to build this way for gravity. And he showed me this black and white schematic. I will never be able to explain this to people, but it was like an animation of an architectural drawing. It was white background with black lines, and it outlined all the major components of the craft, but it moved, and I could see the ramp. It went up like this, and then it slid underneath the first floor of the craft. So like there was only one floor you could walk on, but there was an underbelly of the craft, and then there was some sort of components in the top, like a small top section. So he's telling me we have to build it this way because of gravity, because when they land, they turn off the field, and the entire gravity, the entire craft is subject to gravity of wherever they landed. So, so everything was like curves and perfect angles and really smooth domed shapes. Like everything was these really smooth shapes. He showed me this schematic before I even stepped inside, so I hadn't even seen the inside yet. But he sends this to me, and then he turns around and he kind of ushers me with his hand to go inside. When I stepped in, I looked to my left, and there was a curved hallway with like I-beams that were stretched out really, really thin along the inside wall, but then they got thicker above your head on an arch down the hallway. When I turned to my right, there was 4 creatures immediately as soon as I turned to my right. There was like a little control area at the front of the craft, and because it was circular at the end, you know, like an oval, they had these tables that went around the outside edge of the craft, and they had chairs that looked like barbershop chairs with the pedestal. They looked like those 1960s, 1970s egg chairs, but they were, everything was silver, like everything. So there was a creature sitting in the egg chair very close to the door with a little table that was up against the wall that it blended seamlessly into the wall. And then there was 2 more, and then there was there was a 4th center chair that it didn't have anything. It was just in the middle of these 3 other chairs and tables, and there was a creature standing right next to it. So as soon as I turned, all 4 of them turned to me at once, and I locked eyes with them, and they told me that they knew what I had done, and they were referencing threatening the female. They knew I had threatened to kill her, and that they wanted me to know, all 4 of them at the same time. So telepathy is weird. So they wanted me to know, they knew what I had done, and that they were going to keep an eye on me, and they were going to consider me a threat to the ship and the crew while I was on board their craft. After they told me that, I kind of felt bad for a second, and I think they knew that I was just reacting. But anyway, after that, they each told me their jobs. So one by one, they kind of introduced themselves. The one said he was the captain. He said he was in control of the actual movement of the craft. So he literally controlled, like, piloting the vehicle. There was one that was, I want to make sure I say this right, but there was 3 of them. One said that they were in charge of communications. The other one said that they were in charge of internal systems. And then the other one said he was in charge of external sensors. He never told me what that was. He just said that it was kind of like radar, I guess, something like that, where they have sensors to pick up the outside, and that he monitors those. They never elaborated on what kind of communications. They never exactly elaborated on, when he said internal systems, I got the sense that he was talking about like machinery, like a reactor, and like it was feeding energy to the components inside, and he was monitoring that. but he never elaborated. So anyway, at that point, I was turned. Oh, excuse me. At that point, number one. So we're just inside the doorway. We haven't gone very far. We're kind of in the middle of that hallway and the cockpit area. Number one turns to me and tells me I got to get naked. So I was like, do I have to? And he was like, yes. And he made me, the same way the female manipulated me, like made me. So I took my shirt off. And then he was like, you have to take off your pants. And I literally was about to ask him if I could keep my underwear on. And for whatever reason, I just was like, whatever. And I just took them off. I was worried that if I don't know how to explain this to you, but they kind of give you this if you do what they say, they won't make you. And so I wanted to keep my underwear on, but then I was afraid that he would force me to take them off. So I just did it on my own. He didn't make me take off my pants. He said, you have to take them off, but I just did it on my own. And then he took me down the hallway. Down the hallway, there was one doorway, and it was just on the right, a few steps down into the hallway. And I went in that room. In that room was a table and two little tables next to it with like tools, like a glass rod and a few little weird, I don't know what they are, but some of the stuff looked like it could be from somebody's kitchen. It didn't look like, I had no frame of reference for what it was. They were just little tools. So anyway, they brought me in there naked, and I sat down on the table, and the three that had come in left. So they all turned and walked out. After they walked out, and some of them turned left and some of them turned right down that corridor. I think most of them went right. Two other ones came in from the right-hand corridor, and their skin was blue, like patchy white blue skin. They looked just like the other ones. I mean, they looked almost the same, but the ones with the black turtleneck thing, like the cat suit or whatever you want to call it, their skin was very like tannish. I don't even know what color you call it, but it was like it wasn't gray. It was like a medium kind of tan color. These two creatures, the moment I saw them walk in, I was like, oh my God, are they naked? And the one creature said to me that they had a very thin suit on, like a very, very thin protective suit. I didn't see any genitals or anything, but I thought to myself, when he said that, I thought to myself, well, the suit must be like almost the same color as the skin, because I couldn't tell where the suit began and where the suit ended, if that makes sense. It's like a ballerina wearing a nude leotard. When they first walk in, you have no idea, it's one of those things. So there's two of them. One came around to my left. The other one came around to my right. Almost immediately, the one on my left started to try to calm me down. So I was panicking, and he assured me that they weren't going to hurt me and I would be okay, and then I could calm down and all this stuff. But I was really freaked out. He took his hand and waved it in front of me, like an inch from my face. When he did that, literally it was like I was, if you've ever gotten an IV injection, literally it was like from the crown of my head down to my feet. It was like all the fear washed away. The one on my right was doing something down by my arm while I was laid on this table. I have no idea if maybe he injected me with something, or I don't know. All I know is when that one creature waved its hand in front of my face, the fear, the anxiety, it just washed away. And then the creature reached down and grabbed something, and he pulled it up, and it was this needle. It was like a gun, that had a handle and then a long needle nose coming out the end. He put that in my right eye. The moment he stabbed it into my eye, I lost complete vision of my right eye. So now I'm forced, the only thing I can look at is the other creature. I mean, I can't see anything on my right eye. So the creature on my left, he reaches down and picks up what looked like a tuning fork. It was a handle with two long, thin prongs on it. And he put that, and as soon as he picked it up, I was like, what's that for? Like, what are you going to do with that? And he said, brain mapping. That was all I said, brain mapping. And he injected that thing up my nose. When the cartilage snaps, there's like your nose doesn't go straight to your brain. You have like a little cartilage back here that kind of blocks it. When that cartilage popped and snapped, I'll never forget that. The immediate pressure, the feeling, the noise. If you ever heard somebody's nose or jaw get broken, it was like that. And then there was just immediate internal pressure of my brain. Like I could feel the outside of my brain pressing on the inside of my skull. And then he turned that thing on. And the way I described it back then was, I said it was like 1,000 bees exploding in my brain. It was like it was giving off some sort of vibration or something, but it was bouncing around on the inside of my skull, like a radio wave bouncing everywhere. So it almost was like it was coming from thousands of different directions at once. I don't know if this was electricity. I don't know if it was microwaves. I have no idea. But it was the most intense pain I've ever felt in my entire life. He pulled it out. When he pulled it out, he leaned in really close with his right eye up against my left eye, like maybe an inch. I mean, got right on me. And then I got this feeling that he was giving me something. Like at first I thought he was, so in my mind, I was like, maybe he's checking over his work. Like that's, you know, when like a doctor leans in, like, you know, I thought maybe he was checking over his work. And as I was thinking that, it was like he was giving me something. He was telepathically, he was doing something to me for later. He was like giving me something for another time. I don't know why. So he leans in, he puts his eye real close to me, and then he leans back, and then he tells me that I'm going to forget everything. And he kept saying it over and over, that I would not remember, I would not remember, I would not remember. And I said to him, I was like, there's no effing way. Like, I will remember this for the rest of my life. And then after that, they left. So they filed out. He motioned with his hand to the other creature. Oh, I should tell you. So while he was doing that, my vision in my right eye slowly faded back. So anyway, he stood tall. He motioned with his hand to the other creature, and they both went out and down the hallway. They walked out the door. The same little creatures came in. The ones, I think they're the same ones that took me. And at that time, my memory gets really choppy. I remember sitting up on the table and talking to them. They were doing something on the wall. There was like a little cabinet type of thing, and they were doing something. But it gets so choppy right there. I usually don't tell much about it. But the next thing I remember, they're bringing me across the basement. They're trying to drag me over to my bed. I'm completely awake, but I can't move anything from below my neck. So I saw my television. I saw my clock. I knew exactly, it was 4:09 at night, or 4:09 a.m. When they had abducted me, it was 2:18 on my clock when they first took me. So this is almost 2 hours later. They put me up in bed.
Let's all right there. Right there. So we're going to go ahead and go into the final break of the night with our guest here, Justin Bush, in the middle of an awesome story. Sounds like he's getting put back in bed at this point, and we'll be able to wrap that up and get to your audience questions here right after the break. Make sure you don't go anywhere. Like I said, or if you do, at least make sure that you come right back, right here on the Spaced Out Radio After Hours Radio Show. See you back here in a minute. All right, we are clear, and man, I'm just enthralled with the story. I'm just in there with you, and so is everyone else. I'm just reading through the chat as you go. We will take a 5-minute break here. Once again, you have time to do anything you need to do. If you need to step away, you can definitely do that. Otherwise, we got about a little under 5 minutes before we come back. And welcome to the show. Definitely thank you for your awesome super chat tonight. I did see that. Actually, let me thank everyone so far. Richard Minnick, I saw that. Thank you so much for the awesome super chat. Support of the show. Miss Catherine Jones, same thing. To you, and said Flat Six is here. You must mean I must have forgot to say Flat Six, which is crazy because I always say hi to Flat Six, but Flat Six, shout out to you. Thank you for coming in tonight. I can't believe that was something that I did or forgot to do right here. Let me y'all jump on the screen while the guest steps away. And let's see, what else do we have? I do have a few of your questions here that I was able to pick up during the last half hour here. So make sure you keep them coming. Keep them coming. I will go ahead and mark this one also. And let's see. That is so awesome, Blue Cruise. Tune in to multiple YouTube channels, SOR Live, After Hours being one of the best and my favorite. Hello, all. Thank you so much, Blue Cruise. You know, we just try to do what we do here, and it's definitely awesome that you are looking at that and pointing that out. So thank you so much. Also, Tim James stepped in the building, said, Mr. Rob G. And also, Tim James, guys, if you don't know, I just talked about spacedoutradio.com is the website. Tim James has been doing work over there. And if you go to the host page now, you see me on there. Now I'm on there now. It's updated thanks to Tim James. It's definitely becoming a place that you definitely should have bookmarked and set to go to often, because we also have a fan zone there that will be getting updated soon, and that will be where you get to post your photos wearing our swag, because we don't have ugly swag, and it's going to be a great place for you to just post pictures. So you'll be able to submit them there. Make sure you bookmark the spacedoutradio.com website. It's going to be a lot of cool things coming there, and we want to give a shout out to Tim James for making that happen as we bring spacedoutradio.com into prominence, into relevance. So once again, appreciate you, Tim James. Also want to thank Bob Thorson for the super sticker tonight. Do appreciate you, sir. Thanks for showing your love and support of Spaced Out Radio and the After Hours Radio Show and what we do here on the weekends. And that's the thing, you know, I know a lot of people are Monday through Friday viewers, and it kind of coincides with your work week, right? You get to the weekend, it's like, hey, I'm going out of town, I'm going to do these other things. And so, you know, we get the weekend, the people who are kind of chilling, sitting around looking for things to do. That's who we get here. But you should make the After Hours Radio Show part of your normal schedule. Even if you go out of town, even if you hit the road, make sure you have the notification on so you know when we go live, because it's great programming when you're away. It's great programming when you're at home. And once again, 7 days a week on this channel, we are doing awesome stuff here. So we'd appreciate if you are here for the first time, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button. We would love to see you back. It's a great chat and community here if you have not noticed already. And we go ahead and say a couple more things here. Flat Six, hey, saying, hey, Rob, much love and respect. Yeah, I didn't mean, I know you were teasing. I just wanted to make sure I said your name because I saw it earlier. I was like, man, I forgot Flat Six. How can I do that? So that is it. And let me see, just make sure. Anyone else? Eve. Okay, Eve. Wow, Chris Christopherson special on PBS hour remains Pacific time. Okay, not sure what that means, but thanks for coming, Eve. I do appreciate you showing up. Since we got about 30 seconds left before we get back here, we go ahead and bring our guest back on stage with us here. And there he is. That's Justin Bush, our guest for the night. And got about 30 seconds left. Let me see. Well, that's what I was doing. I was making sure we said thank you to everyone here for the super chats. So Richard Minnick, Miss Catherine Jones, welcome to the show. Major Lee, all the way from the UK, Bob Thorson. Thank you guys all for supporting the show tonight. So we have about 10 seconds left. And we'll be jumping into your questions shortly. So not right away, but in a few moments. We got 5 seconds. Here we go. All right, everybody. Welcome back. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. It has been a fantastic show so far. We have Justin Bush, who is an abductee, an experiencer, and a writer. We'll be talking about his book and more. As we go ahead and get ready to wrap things up on this last half hour, your questions will be addressed as well. Remember, if you missed any of the show tonight, hop in our archives. They're there. They're absolutely free. And that's youtube.com/at Spaced Out Radio. So getting back into the story, Justin, you can go ahead and pick right back up where you left off. That'd be awesome. Oh, maybe you can't hear. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, so it was pretty simple. They brought me back, they let me go, and then I watched them leave. And I remember thinking, watching them walk in that single file line, they did something that was really strange. They pivoted at the exact same mark, one after the other, without talking to each other, and they just walked upstairs and out of sight. And I remember thinking, they reminded me of ants, the way that they march together. But yeah, that's really pretty much it. I laid there. I tell people that I think I fell asleep with my eyes open, because even though when they first brought me in, I could see the clock. They laid me over on the side and I couldn't see it anymore. It was in a basement with windows. So I literally watched the entire room light up as the sun rose. And it took place, it felt like it took about 15 minutes. Like I was watching it on fast forward. I don't know if I fell asleep or what, but that was pretty strange. And then like out of nowhere, I just snapped out of it. The entire time I was like, I got to get out of here. I got to run. I don't know what's going on. So I immediately jumped up and ran across the room, grabbed a baseball bat. And I thought, I don't know why, but I just thought that they must still be in the house because I saw them walk upstairs. So I ran outside the basement door and the sun hit me. And the way I explain it to people, even though I watched the sun come up, I didn't believe it because it was like I was watching it on fast forward. So when I burst out the door and it hit me in the sun literally hit me in the face, I was like, the sun is up. Like, and it didn't make any sense to me. It didn't make any logical sense. So I ran around the back door and I noticed my mother's car was gone. And so I kind of just took the baseball bat and I went room for room, checking the house. When I stepped in the kitchen, I heard a bang above me on the second floor. So I jumped back outside. And when I looked up in the window, my dogs were locked in the second floor room. They're not allowed to be up there. They're not allowed up the stairs. And that door is padlocked shut. It's a long story, but it literally is padlocked shut. So when I saw the dogs in the window, I was like, that's impossible. I called my mother. My mother said she had just left. She said she literally just left. She had a doctor's appointment. So basically I went upstairs and I had to break my dogs out of that bedroom. It took me hours. I eventually went through the wall to get them out of that room. My mom came home. I told her about the dogs, and I was like, they were locked up in the room, and she was like, they couldn't have been. And I was like, yeah, and she was like, well, I'll call your stepdad. Maybe he came home in the middle of the night or something. And she was like, but I don't know why he would lock them in there. And so she called him, and he was a firefighter. So he had literally was on call. Like he can't just leave the firehouse. So he was like, no, I never came home, But anyway, the next day, my neighbor came out and talked to me. And that's when he told me that he kept saying, I saw everything. I saw everything. His story was that he woke up about 2:00, a little after 2:00, and he went out to his kitchen, which his whole kitchen overlooks our backyard. He said he saw flashing lights outside. And when he went to the kitchen window, he said he saw this craft hover over the house. It stopped and made a 90-degree turn and landed in the backyard. He said it was there for 20, almost 30 minutes. He said 25, 30 minutes. And he said then it flew away. He never said to me, I saw you get abducted by gray aliens. But he kept saying, I saw everything. I saw everything. We need to tell the authorities. We've got to contact the authority. We got to tell them what happened. And I was like, no, I don't, I'm terrified. And so I was like, no, please, I don't want to tell anybody. And he was like, we need to tell somebody. And then he said, if you go around, maybe somebody else saw it. He was like, so he started pointing, there's some houses in the distance. And he was like, you need to find more witnesses and we need to tell the authorities. We had a pretty long conversation. He said things like, he said, I was going to call the cops. He said, but I didn't think they believed me. He said something like, what did he say? He said, he said, I didn't know whether to grab my rifle and start shooting at them. He was scared. Like he was freaked out. But anyway, there was a landing spot back there. I showed my mother, and it was like an 8-foot wide circle where this thing had landed, where all the grass was gone. And then just outside of that circle, there were these 3 deep indentations, probably about 8 inches deep, maybe a foot long, 8 inches wide, 8 inches deep into the ground where this thing had sat. But yeah, that one's probably one of my longest ones. The next 4 months, I literally just locked myself in the bedroom. Like at night, I would flip my bed up against the door and barricade myself. It really, really traumatized me. It really freaked me out. I know it freaked my neighbor out. But then he's dead now. He eventually died. But yeah, it scared him. My mother, after a few weeks, she was like, you got to tell me what happened. And I finally told her, and she told me to go to the doctor because that thing that they injected in my eye, there was like it was like maybe 2 millimeters, maybe, 1 millimeter, 2 millimeter wide, round metal object just underneath the white of my eye right here. Wow. So my mom kind of made me go to the doctor. She kept pressuring me. She's like, you gotta tell him. She was like, you don't know what that thing is. You don't know what it could be doing to you. You need, So I eventually went to an eye doctor. He saw it. He had me take a magnet. So he looked at it under a microscope and he had me take a magnet up to it and go like this as he looked at it. And he was like, you have a small round metal object. He was like, just underneath the skin of your right eye. And he was like, he said, it's so close to the outside of the skin. He said, I wouldn't be surprised if one day it fell out on its own. He said, it could be months, it could be years. He's like, but it wouldn't surprise me if it fell out on its own because it's so shallow. He said, it almost looks like your body is trying to reject it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there was there was too much evidence. My clothes, when they made me get naked, they sprayed something on my clothes, like a disinfectant. I don't know how to, I should have said this earlier, but they decontaminate you. And my clothes the next day just fell apart. They were bleached, completely bleached. And it was almost like paper towels where the fibers are almost like rotten, where they just fall apart so easy. So that the entire outfit I had was completely ruined. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much everything with that encounter.
Dude, that is so, and I appreciate you being so detailed because I think you've answered a lot of questions by being so detailed with the story, and it resonates. And that's what I know it'll do is for someone else who has had the similar experience, it'll resonate for them. Some of the things you said even resonated with me as far as like the being asleep with your eyes open and kind of not sure where you were or what that was. I told a story recently where I was watching television and I was in bed and I kept like going from this sleep state to being awake, and you couldn't tell what side you were on. And when I was on the sleep side, I believe I felt something grab my leg on that side, and it was just this crazy experience. But I'd love to have you back to talk about that. Also, because we're running up right against the end of the hour, do you have about 15 minutes after the break? Because I'm sure some of these questions are going to take us into the end of this hour.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, that'd be awesome. Appreciate that. So I wanted to touch a couple things before we jump into the audience questions. So one of the things was the government visit that you mentioned in the first hour in 2018. Can you give us a brief thing about what happened there?
Yeah. So basically I had a bunch of encounters with alien UFOs, whatever. One of the times I was driving and literally picked the car up and dropped it onto the road. Anyway, so I don't know what happened. I don't know how they found out about me. I reached out to the FBI, but also it's such a long story. So my girlfriend didn't believe in any UFOs or anything. We got together, and in 2018 she's seeing all this crazy stuff, and she's like, what is like she didn't believe in any of this stuff. And so she's having these experiences with me, and she's like, what the hell is happening? So what ended up happening was she saw how traumatized I was, and she was like, you should join there's got to be a support group or something. So I joined a support group, and she also encouraged me to start videotaping, taking pictures, photographs of the stuff that was happening. So I did, and I was posting them on this support group. That's when I got hacked. Not only did I get hacked, but the support group got hacked, and so did multiple people in the group. The pictures that I had and the photographs were deleted from my phone. I literally watched as my phone got hacked. I ripped the battery out, and when I put it back in, about 150 or so photos and videos were deleted. So at that point, I was like, I've got to like reach out to the FBI or something. Like, this is beyond me. Like, I don't know what to do. So I reached out to them, and it was like a day later. That night, about almost 1 o'clock at night, I hear a sound. Like the bedroom, there's a door right at the foot of the bed. It goes right outside. So I hear somebody walk up, and what happened was they put a camera in the door about a foot. They slid a camera in, and it bent up 90 degrees and rotated 90 degrees, and it pointed straight at my face. And the moment, so I'm fully awake. I heard all this. Like, I didn't know what to do. I was thinking about grabbing a gun, but I was like, maybe it's an animal, like I'm trying to calm myself down, but they walked up the stairs, they opened the glass door, they slipped this camera in the doorway into the bedroom. and they looked around the bedroom. When they realized I was awake, they ran off. So I woke my girlfriend up, and I was like, somebody just stuck a camera in the door. And she was like, what are you talking about? She was like, you probably just fell asleep, whatever. And I was like, there are men outside. And I was like, they just came up to the back door and they put a camera up. And she was like, there's nothing out. She was like, it's nothing. I'll show you. I'm going to show you. So she put her boots on, swung her jacket around, and stepped outside. And she blacked out. She doesn't know what happened. After about 45 minutes, I went outside, and she was out there, and she was just like drugged. Like her eyes were rolled in the back of her head. There were men out there. I'll just try to keep it short, but there were several men with headset radios in black military fatigues, black boots, black pants. They grabbed her first, and then when I went out there, they grabbed me. They were radioing to each other. Like when I stepped outside, I swear that one guy, I think he said the target's outside. I swear that's what it sounded like. He went, but yeah, anyway, they grabbed me. They drugged me and interrogated me for about an hour and a half. And then they just kind of let us go. And when they let us go, we immediately went outside, like within seconds of them letting us go. And this craft that I didn't even notice it was landed in the field next to the house. It was so black that this craft, I didn't notice it until it lifted off the ground. Once it lifted off the ground, it flew over top of us and flew away. So that's what happened with those guys. They asked me, all of their questions were about the UFO encounter I had like 2 days before, like a 2 nights before. What did they look like? What did they say to you? Did they give you anything? Did you take anything from them? It was just a bunch of questions about the UFO encounter I had. But these were military guys, American accent, highly trained. Like, I mean, I've been around military people. I would say like operators, like I think that's just the best. These guys were cool, calm, violent, kind of. It was clear they wanted me to be afraid. Like they wanted me to fear them. Like they were this, they weren't just investigating. It was kind of a like if you say anything, nobody will ever see you ever again type of thing. They searched the bedroom. They ripped up our bed. They took the bedspread off and the pillowcases off the pillowcases or off the pillows. They got mud everywhere in the house, their boots, because it had snowed and then it melted. So when they came inside, they got mud all over the carpet. But yeah, it was clear that they were there to investigate the encounter I had a few days before. So.
Okay. That is very interesting. I want to make sure that we got that in with the story as well. Also, had a question on why did you think these or did it appear to you in hindsight, looking back, that these encounters were escalating as far as what they were doing?
The military people or
with the ET? Yeah, with the ET.
Oh, yeah, no. In 2018, I had more contact in 2018 than I've ever probably had in the 15 years prior. That 1 month in February of 2018, I was having some kind of crazy encounter like every day or every other day for a month. Like I said, my girlfriend went from there's no such thing as UFOs, there's no such thing as aliens. She went from that to like I don't know what's happening. Like what is happening? It's like we had multiple encounters together. She just never, for me, it was normal, but it wasn't so often. Like the first night, it was 3 lights that flew over, and I was like, I probably won't have another encounter for 6 months, 10, but it just kept happening. So there was a clear escalation at the time. And then it kind of petered out, and then it became kind of more periodic again. But yeah, I would say maybe even that whole year, I had like an increase of encounters, maybe that whole year. And then maybe 2020, it kind of went back to normal, whereas like maybe once a year, something strange would happen.
And I know you said it hadn't happened in a while. Are you, in usually with recurring events like this, it's bound to happen again, but it could not ever happen again as well. Are
Right.
you looking forward to the next encounter, or are you more afraid of having that next encounter? Which side would you lean towards?
I guess I don't, neither. I mean, you have to understand, I consider myself very lucky because of the things I'm even with the government, when they threaten me, like I feel really lucky because most people never get to see that side of reality. Most people don't even know the government's doing stuff like that. Like, I'll give you an example. They have published, so there are these things called snatch and grab teams, right? They literally have published about it. They have guys that have worked on those teams on podcasts saying, yeah, I was in a snatch and grab team back in 2006, and we captured this guy and that guy and this guy. And even with the people, the program, they're admitting it on television. There are people out there that I tell them, yeah, these guys came and they grabbed me and they questioned me, and they go, why would the government ever do that? Like, I do feel kind of lucky to have seen what I've seen, but it's one of those things where it's like, while it's happening, it really sucks. But then years later, you go, at least I got to see something. I got to see this thing, or I got to, I learned something. So it's kind of like a trial by fire, where you get to learn something really interesting, but you have to suffer in order to learn. Yeah. So it's a catch-22. I don't feel good about it, but I don't feel necessarily bad about it either.
Yeah. Well, that's a great answer. That's actually a great, and that's what we should do. We should definitely set up another show where we go into the government part of this and your experiences there, because that's very interesting, and I'm sure there's a lot to it, a lot more than you're able to say tonight. So let's do that. And then also before the break here, so there was one thing. So you talked about described the shape of the craft as being egg shaped. Now, obviously, we had this egg-shaped craft recently come out with Jake Barber. Did that hit you any kind of way when you saw that? Was that like a wow? See, that's what I'm talking about. Or how did you feel about that? Or did you feel anything?
So in 2018, one of those days, I saw a real egg-shaped craft, like a straight up. You take an egg and enlarge it. And it's the only egg-shaped craft I've ever seen my entire life. It was hovering about 100 yards away, and it shined a light out the end. So with Jake Barber, and he came out and said egg-shaped craft, my first thought was that one. If you stood back and you saw it, you would say cigar probably, because it just looked, or Tic Tac, But when you come up on it, it's curved in every direction like a football or an egg. But it's not, it would be like symmetric. If you took an egg, right, and you made it perfectly symmetrical on each side, like a pill, like a Tylenol, and then you kind of stretched it out in the middle. That encounter in 2009, I wouldn't have thought of that one. But I did immediately, when he said that, I immediately thought of that craft I saw in 2018. But it was, yeah.
We're gonna start right there, because we actually have 10 seconds before we get into the break. And Justin has agreed to come back after the break, guys. So don't go anywhere. We're gonna get the questions answered. awesome show tonight right here on Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after the break.
Conversations that move the needle.
Conversations that move the
You're
needle.
listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio. You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, we're clear, and I appreciate you staying, Justin. We'll take this 5-minute break, and I'll see you after the break.
Okay.
Welcome back to After Hour number 3 right here in the After Hour radio show, Spaced Out Radio. And we are joined back with our guest who was gracious enough to stay to answer your questions. And we'll go ahead and be posing those. Mr. Justin Bush, who is an abductee experiencer and has given us some fantastic stuff. We are coming right back here on Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show, After Hour number 3, with our guest here, Justin Bush. Do appreciate him staying for After Hour number 3 here as he gets into answering the questions from you in the chat live here on YouTube. If you're on the radio station, kick back and listen to what we have for you in hour number 3. Justin plus Steve Stockton tells Untold This Person Mysteries, and then Drew Banky with After Hours wrap up. Okay, Justin, I definitely want to appreciate you for staying here. And the question that I have, final question for me, was going to be, why do you think you have been chosen? I know we talked about the bloodline thing being a possibility. No one's for sure. But if you had to speculate, what do you think? Why do you think you have been chosen for this?
All right. I actually think that's exactly what it is. I think so. When they, we haven't talked about other encounters I've had, but it's always medical. It's always some test. It's always a brain scan. Sometimes the things that they do to you seem like maybe psychological tests, like some sort of, when I was younger, they brought me in a room and gave me what could only be described as some kind of puzzle, like some kind of object. You clicked it around, almost like a Rubik's Cube, but not the same shape. I think it's some sort of monitoring, maybe it's bloodlines, maybe it's not, but certainly it's some sort of medical. They're very interested in blood, semen. I think whatever it is that they found when they were doing those tests, they're studying it is the best answer I can give.
Yeah, and that's an awesome answer, and it makes a lot of sense. That they have moved into another phase of what they're now going to do with the blood and the samples and things of that nature. So getting into this here, this was a question that I had that the viewer also asked, and I was like, this has to be the first question. Have you had any other paranormal experiences outside of what we've talked about tonight? Like maybe, I know you talked about the lady, which sounds like paranormal sort of, but have you had any other things like that? Paranormal?
Sure.
Otherwise?
Yeah. I've had orb encounters. I've had plenty of, missing time. I've had, I saw one time I saw what I think most people will call a ghost. I don't call it a ghost. I don't know what it was. But it appeared and disappeared in a few seconds. I've had, I'll tell you one. So my girlfriend and my girlfriend, after she had her encounter, she wanted to understand like what is going on. And so she started to research and she found CE5. And, I was traumatized, so I didn't want to do it. But she was like, well, we should try. Like it was like the first thing she found out about when she started to research UFOs and stuff. So anyway, one night we went out there. This was like 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And we went outside, we meditated, we came back inside. When we opened the front door, the door hit something. There was something behind the door. And when we stepped inside, there was chocolate chips everywhere. It literally looked like somebody had left a trail of them across the, literally they were on top of a chair, across the floor on a desk and behind the door. They were so close to the door that we couldn't open the door because we hit them. And the house only has one door. It's just the front door. All the windows are locked. So we find like a mountain of, and somebody told me like, well, maybe it was like a mouse or a rat or something. There's no way they would be able to move that amount of chocolate chips in that amount of time. So we looked, we were like, we have chocolate chips. We got to find them. They were locked in a sealed plastic container in this top thing. They were unopened. So we were like, it was just a weird thing. Like it was literally like somebody just did it to mess with us. It was very strange. But yeah, we've had some stuff like that happen.
Okay, let me ask you here. There's quite a few questions. I'm trying to get through these as quick as possible. We have MJ who asks, why do they choose you and keep coming back for more? You sort of answered that. Did you have any more to add to that?
No, I mean, I think they're monitoring people. They did some implants, they did some scans. That's my best guess.
All right. And Miss Catherine Jones, I asked this question as well, so I'll move this off the list, and asking if you were still afraid, because she's making a great point here. So actually, I didn't make this. She's asking, are you still afraid? Because when she stopped being afraid of her encounters became more enjoyable.
Right. I'll say afraid. My last encounter wasn't that bad. It was not my last encounter. The encounter before that, it was in September 25th of 2023. It wasn't that bad. It was, I wouldn't say enjoyable, but it was educational. It wasn't that scary. It was weird, but it wasn't that bad.
All right. And let's see here. Next question. Justin, actually, trying to bring this up. Looks like my mouse has decided to die on me right in the middle of the show. So let me try to get to this other question here. All right, I'm gonna have to just read it to you here. So, does your this is Michael Ledger asking this, Justin? Does your body vibrate before an abduction?
Sometimes. It hasn't happened every time, but I know what you're talking about. I always tell people it's like when you put like something in the microwave, it's like every atom is. It almost feels like you're receiving microwaves or something. It's happened several times. It happened a few times before I blacked out. It happened one time with an object. It flew over and it lit up, and it literally felt like, I mean, just every atom in your body is vibrating. But yeah, sometimes it happens. Sometimes it doesn't. So I don't know. I don't know why, but yeah, it has happened.
All right, and we go ahead and get to the next question here. Justin, did you get the feeling that the ship was itself alive?
That ship from 2009. No, it was more. I got more of a feeling like it was an artificial intelligence, like a computer. But I've had encounters with orbs or whatever they are, where I did get the feeling that they were alive. Where it was like I don't know, like somebody watching you, or you get that feeling like it's a living thing. I don't know if that's true or not, but I've had that feeling with other UFO encounters. But the 2009, it was a metal object, and I got the feeling that it was like a computer of some kind. It was the best, integrated electronics, if you want to call it that.
Okay. Let's see. Mike Jones is asking, are the visitors working on their own goals, or is it part of a bigger picture with other visitors from different species?
I definitely think most of my encounters were with grays up until 2018. That's when I started to have encounters with other creatures that they're clearly not grays, but I don't know what you would want to call them. It seems to be it's so much bigger than what we realize. And the grays, they kept saying the program. They said it a bunch of times. They, when that one female said that I'm an anthropologist and I'm here to collect you for the program, they kept saying it. They kept saying the mission and the program. So I think it is, what I tell people is that we're in some sort of contested space. There's multiple of these groups. You have like the government, you have several different of these, I don't know, whatever you want to call them, alien groups. And it's almost like they're all, the government is following the alien, and then this alien is following this alien. And they're all they're like intelligence communities that are all like investigating each other. And we seem to be caught in the middle for some reason. So I call it a contested space.
Okay. The Andromedan is asking you a question. Any light beams in the craft that you were on?
I've never, the only things I've ever seen that, like I said earlier, I've seen orbs that I felt like they might be, alive. But no, I've not, to my recollection. I can't remember anything like that.
All right. And this may be what takes us into the next show here. But MJ, ask you the question: was it just ET, or do you feel the humans were also involved? I think you were kind of getting into that a little bit.
I think clearly I don't see in the beginning I was like, well, maybe the humans are monitoring the ETs and that's why they came, right? But I reached out to the FBI and I also got hacked. So I don't know what alerted them. If I knew why, or if I knew how they found out that I had that encounter, then but the truth is I don't know. I don't know why, it most likely I did it. Most likely I kicked, but I don't know. But without question, if you're talking about in the grand scheme of things, without question, humans are involved.
All right. And Paramarv is asking, you mentioned the tuning fork that was inserted in your nose and the damage it sounded like it did. Have you had your nasal passages examined for any such damage?
No, I mean, yes, but no, I didn't say like, hey, doctor, I was abducted by aliens. Please check out my nose. But I do have a messed up nasal passage, and they actually told me that I needed to get surgery, but I don't have the money. I mean, I can't afford. So when they do surgery to your nose, they consider rhinoplasty. And most insurance carriers consider a rhinoplasty to be an elective procedure. So you have to pay for it yourself. If you get in like a motorcycle accident or something, they might do it at the hospital and your insurance will pick it up. But just having a deviated or having scar tissue in your nose or something like that, as long as you can breathe out your mouth, they won't pay for it. You gotta fight with insurance to get them to pay for it. But yes, my nasal passages are damaged, but I just didn't tell. I didn't tell them like, hey, aliens did it or whatever.
All right. And then Sierra's asking, do you think that most abductees experience Stockholm syndrome?
So I think some of them do. Like that's what I said earlier about my dad and my mom. I think it's so much easier for people to put some sort of religious thing. It just makes it. If you think they're demons and you can just pray and protect yourself. If you think they're angels, then there's nothing to worry about. I think it's so traumatizing for people that they will do whatever they possibly can to kind of deal with the trauma. So Stockholm syndrome is I think it's not everybody. Some people seem to be able to deal with it better than others, but certainly I think some people, I think they have to. I think they're so traumatized, they just have to, they have to put a positive spin on it, because if not, it would drive them insane. So.
All right. And the Andromedan asking, Justin, did the ship have an AI of some sort, and was it female or male intelligence?
I don't think it was either male or female. I think it was more of I don't know, like a computer it's the only thing I could think of. It's like I wouldn't call it male or female. I just wouldn't. It's kind of like calling your phone a female. Let me put it like this. I got no sense of their craft being a male or a female. I did get a sense that it's almost like your computer, where it was able to collect information and do calculations and produce results by itself. Like, it didn't need any input. It could do it on its own. But I wouldn't call it. You might call it AI, but I wouldn't call it male or female.
Okay.
And maybe it is. I just don't. I never got that feeling.
All right. And Deb from Sacramento is asking, did your girlfriend stick with you, or was she scared away by what was going on?
Yeah, she's still around. Yeah, no, we had a really hard time. Like, it took 3 years before she finally, I remember the night it happened. So we were in bed, and I saw a light outside the window. We were in the second floor, and she was asleep. And anyway, I woke her up, and she was like, it's probably nothing, and whatever. She went back to sleep, and then I blacked out. And when I came to, there was a craft hovering outside the window, like just a few feet, like maybe 6 feet away from her. There was a disc hovering right there. I woke her up, and she saw it, and she went, oh my God, what the F is that? Yeah, and this thing rotated 90 degrees, paused, and then shot off thousands of miles an hour in a fraction of a second. The window was wide open. She was feet away from it. That night, we stayed up to talk after it flew away. And she said something like, she was like, this is real, isn't it? She was like, this is really happening. And that was like the night that she went from like a complete skeptic. Like, every time something happened to me, I tell her, I'd be like, something just happened. And she'd be like, oh, it's probably nothing. It's, maybe you fell asleep and you were dreaming, and, whatever. It literally, she had multiple encounters. And it was that night that she went, oh my God, this is real. This is really happening. And our relationship completely changed after that. Since then, we've had several encounters together. We had one 2 years ago in September. We've had multiple. We had a triangle fly right over top of us, do a 180-degree turn and fly off. She basically accepted that this was happening, and now I would say she's more interested in it than I am. Like, she finds it very interesting. I'm the traumatized one. For her, she's not traumatized. She's like, this is really crazy, but she's very interested in it. Yeah, but she did a complete 180 from UFOs are not real to, oh my God, I can't believe UFOs are real. Like, she just complete 180.
It's kind of sounds like my girl. Deb from SAC, who just asked you this question, she says you should marry her because that sounds like love. And I would like to know, do you guys have any kids?
No. No, she, I really don't like talking about her too much, but she got a divorce, so she doesn't believe in marriage anymore. But she rest assured, she did tell me that we would stay together forever. So
Yeah.
that's good.
Hey, that's enough right there. Marriage.
Yeah, I've never been married, and she kind of has a bad taste from her divorce. So she just doesn't believe in marriage anymore. She thinks she's like, why can't we just be together forever? Why do we have to, you know?
I'm with that. I understand that totally.
Yeah.
Now let me ask you this: the day that you guys have kids, if you do, based on your experience and what you went through as a child yourself, and the interaction you had with your own parents, and the connection you had with your parents about this subject, would you be open to talking to your kids about this? If it seemed like they were like engaging with the phenomena?
Oh, listen, I would do the exact opposite of what my parents did. I mean, I would tell them, look, we might not know what that is, but it's, like, number one, I would tell them what I saw. I wouldn't make them wait 20 years and then be like, oh yeah, one time, and then one time when I was with your mother, this happened. And I wouldn't make them wait till because it makes you feel like you're crazy. When you're 6, 7, when I'm 11 years old, I'm out walking, and then this happens to me. It makes you feel like you're a lunatic because, nobody believes in this crazy thing. So yeah, I would do the exact opposite. I would tell them everything that happened to me. I would try to get them to calm down, not to be so afraid, because that one person was right. When you calm yourself, even like I was trying to tell you about 2009, like once I calmed down and wasn't violent, it was, as she says, a more pleasant experience. Yeah. It was better. Was it still scary? Yeah, but it was still better than fighting. You're getting abducted and you're fighting and you're getting threatened. And but yeah, I would do the exact opposite. I tell them everything. I would try to calm them. I would try to help them to deal with it. I would do the exact opposite. Yeah, you don't.
No, that's awesome. I just want to make sure that I got you the answer for that. So we have about 3 minutes left, and I want to make sure that you get to tell everybody where your book is. But before we do that, I just wanted to add to this that based just like you said, if you don't have that validation or you don't have the person to talk to as a kid, you can go all those years not knowing and thinking, are you crazy? And that's why I talk to, parents out there that may not understand that this is a reality, because they would be the ones to brush the kids off when they're coming in to tell a story about something under their bed, or like you said, something that came out of your closet. Those just sound like spooky stories to parents that don't believe. What would it hurt to go and just check? Just go and see.
Oh yeah.
Go and see.
Well, you remember when I told you that one night I was there. So when my dad chased that woman, right, down the hallway and burst into the room. So what he saw and what I saw were two different things. What I saw was what most people call a shadow person. It opened up the door of my room and came up, and literally I heard banging and I didn't know what it was in the living room. And so the shadow person bolted out the door. Then I see my dad run around the corner and boom, knock the door, flips the lights on. He's looking everywhere. So apparently it doesn't hurt to check, because he saw whatever he saw and chased it, and I saw whatever I saw that night. Clearly, both of us, something was strange was happening. If my father can see it, if my mother can see it, if I can see it, my girlfriend can see it. Even if you want to say it's mental, right? Well, then you still have something that's happening that needs to be addressed. You know what I mean?
Tell everybody where they can find your book, the name of your book, and where they can find it. We have about.
Oh yeah, sure. It's called Violence Will Not Be Tolerated, and it's on Amazon. You can just look up my name, Justin Bush, or type in Violence Will Not Be Tolerated, and you'll find it.
All right, Justin, we have to set this back up again. I'll be reaching out to you like tomorrow. Let's set a date and and get into some more of this. So awesome. Thank you for spending this extra time with us too, Justin.
Yeah,
have a great rest of your night. It was awesome.
You too.
Take care.
Thank you.
All right, guys. That was Justin giving us an extra 30 minutes to answer your questions. How awesome is that? Fantastic tale tonight as well. It's when a person, and we talked about this, right? If you have experiences, don't hold them in. Like I said, I have my show, and a lot of people were coming up saying this is my first time talking about this. Don't let it be. Don't let it be something that you take to your grave. Just like Justin said, he wanted to make sure this is something that he got out there and told. And I think everyone should follow that lead. Justin, thanks for coming on in. That was so awesome. We're gonna probably skip Steve Stockton for the night so we can get right on into the after hours wrap up with our guy Drew Banky right after this break. Spaced Out Radio. 30 minutes left in the show. Make sure that if you leave, you come right back because we would love to see you rock out to the end of the show with us right here, Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show. All right, we are clear. And we might as well bring up our guy, Drew Banky, to the stage. We're still going to play your music after the break. I just want to make sure that we could, anything you want to talk about during the break, we can do that, sir.
No, I can't talk until my music plays, man. That's how it flows.
All right, that's true. No, you're right, man.
No, I'm just no. How's it going? It's interesting guest. There's a lot of similarities. Talked about some Egypt, talked about some grays, talked about some shadow people. So,
that's what I say. It's going to be
similar experiences.
It's going to be an awesome wrap up, man. So I heard maybe or maybe not you heard back from Joe Rogan or something. I don't know. You want to talk about that?
Waiting on Joe. No, I'm still waiting on Joe.
Does the audience know though what happened?
After about 2 years, I got connected through the Sean Kelly, the Digital Social Hour, with Sean Kelly group chat, like for past guests and stuff that's been on there. Got to talking about anyone has connection to Joe Rogan. A few people did. I ended up finally getting a legit email address for a booking agent, and I sent a proposal to the booking agent, and Joe's looking at it and waiting to hear back from him. So, but I mentioned in there I was a veteran. Mentioned there about psychedelics, UFOs, consciousness, and and some other stuff. And so and the Sundance and things like that. So yeah, it'd be interesting to. I don't see how he couldn't accept the offer, but yeah, just waiting to hear back from them. So the past like 4 or 5 days have been just a lot of waiting and nervousness, and a lot of checking my phone. So
well, we're going to put the energy out there, man, and we'd love to see that happen, to get Drew Banky on the big stage, because you have. Less people forget you have a very important message to deliver, man. Right? It's not just about the wrap up, man. You yourself have your own great message that needs to be out there, and maybe we'll take a day off where we just bring you back as a guest, right? Where instead of we'll bring Tim in to do the after hours wrap up, and then we'll bring you in as the guest.
Yeah, I've been sitting here with this. Just listening to the guests and just holding this and thinking back to that moment. And I'm going to tell this story on Joe. If I get on there, I'm going to tell this story on Joe, and I might take this to Austin if I get on Rogan and tell that whole story.
Are they going to let you on a plane with that?
No, I'll probably drive, because this time I've been trying to get on Rogan for about 3 years now. The past year, I've been really serious about it, but about past 3 years. But when I first started, and especially these past couple ones where I went solo to go do a podcast, I told Ella, I was like, when I get on Rogan, you got to go with me. Like, you got to be in the green room. Like, we're fly your mom out. She can be with the kids in the hotel or whatever, but you got to go down and experience this with me.
Hell yeah.
Because I wouldn't be here without there's plenty of times when I need her support, both mentally, physically, spiritually, all of it, and vice versa. But definitely, if I do if and when I do go to Austin, we're probably driving down.
Yeah, that's gonna be an awesome day, man. As long as we've talked about that. You've expressed, the need to get the message there, and I totally agree. And then we're watching you take these steps. It is getting to a higher and higher level to where more and more people are getting that message, and that's gonna be the one that we celebrate, man. That
Yeah.
is definitely gonna be the one we celebrate.
Yeah, I got a social media manager now. So yeah, so there's just lots of things moving, just lots of things moving. I might be going to LA in a couple days to do some filming for Human Garage podcast. They want to do a couple interviews with me. They're filming in LA and they want me to come out. So yeah, just a lot of things.
This captain said also go on Danny Jones as well. I don't know if you thought about that.
I don't know Danny Jones, but I'm down, whatever it is.
Yeah. Check out Danny Jones. He interviews a lot of people in the field too. So he would definitely be a good one, as we got about 8 seconds left. Appreciate everybody. Here we go. All right, everybody. Welcome back. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show. We are on the back half of the third hour. Just got finished wrapping up with our guest, Justin Bush. Awesome conversation for hours 1, 2, and then 2.5. If you missed any of the conversation or any of the experiences told, definitely hop in the archive, youtube.com/the Spaced Out Radio, as we go ahead and get ready to jump into the After Hours wrap up with none other than Drew Banke. And I have to say, because we went over, unfortunately, we won't be doing Steve Stockton tonight. And I know, just time constraints won't allow us to do it, but we will be doing After Hours wrap up. And here we go.
You're an irredeemable monster! Come here, I'm gonna eat you! Get in my belly! Kick him in the nard! He doesn't have nard! Go it! Wolfman's got nard! You're a monster!
All right, the After Hours wrap up with Drew Banke in the building here. Drew, definitely welcome to the show, man. Awesome interview today, and what did you think about it?
It's some crazy experiences, to remember all those things. There's little flashes that I can remember of being on a ship a few different times. One in particular, I was in this room with 3 beings. I remember certain aspects of the room and details of the room, but listen to was it Justin, right?
Yes.
Justin? Okay, listen to Justin tonight. There's just his detail of remembering things was just, I was kind of jealous of his recall of a lot of things, because so many things happen. I know so many things that happened to me and I don't remember them like that. I guess I remember what I need to, but to remember it like that, that's some special experiences for sure. The similarities to a lot of things, especially a lot of things I've been talking about, a lot of the viral videos that's been going out recently, is talking about grays, that I put, that content that I've been involved with. So hearing grays come up again, hearing shadow people come up again, which is another video that's getting pretty popular right now, that's come out, part of an interview that I did with this digital social hour. Yeah, so just all these, and the Egypt, of course, mention Egypt, right in the beginning of the show, within the first 15 minutes, caught my attention. I'm like, okay, like there's so many similar, like Egypt is mentioned so many times, like in this whole package, of contact. And to add him talking about the shadow people, recently, Chris Bledsoe, he come out and was talking about his experience and with shadow people. So yeah, there's yeah, if things keep, if something keeps becoming consistent, I mean, at a certain time we got to consider it. It could be fact, you know. Let's not put a fact stamp on it, but I mean, if so many people are talking about the same thing and really giving this, describing the experience in the same way, like, how many times does it have to be told that before we like open our eyes and be like, okay, there might be some valid actual truth to this. You know, it might not be perception, it might be actual truth of what's happening.
That's what I've been saying this whole time, Drew Banky. That's exactly what I've been saying, and is the reason why it is so important for everyone to talk about their experience. You got to put it on record, regardless how important you feel it is, or irrelevant you may think of it. And it's not. It's something that's going to go towards helping someone else. It's going to help you therapeutically. You're gonna feel that release, being able to have that off your chest. Also, you're going to help someone that is still trying to put pieces together, because I'll tell you what, you're right. I listened to his story tonight, and he was very detailed in his explanation, which was awesome to have that. And there were even things that resonated with me on my own experiences, where I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. When he talked about sleeping with the eyes open, I've done that. I just talked about that experience, and how, and the way, that's why I didn't say anything till afterwards, because the way he described that moment of being sleep with the eyes open is exactly the way I explained it the other day. And it's like, okay, and that's what you end up doing. You hear these stories and you're able to align with certain things where you're like, yeah, that's there's something to that right there. And there were a few other parts, right? We talked about the egg. How many people now will go back in their historically on experiences they have, and who mention an egg? A lot of people will say disc shaped craft or something like that, but this guy says egg. And I just thought that was it kind of resonated with me. And there are other parts as well. So I saw people in the chat. I think some people felt that way, but then you're saying the same thing, Drew. So that's pretty wild.
Yeah, I mean, the story stays consistent. I mean, you know, at a certain point we have to, you know, just start to really accept that this may be true. This may be actually how it is. Not just like a personal. This not just one person talking about. This is multiple people over and over again, and the stories are connecting. You know, it's just like synchronicities happen. I heard a a famous podcaster. He was speaking about synchronicity. He had a basically a voice in his head when he's making a decision or something like that, where it talked about uh, a lion, some Bible scripture about a lion, and he turned the corner, and right after hearing that, he was questioning whether he heard it or something to that effect. But he turned the corner, and there was someone wearing a sweatshirt with a big lion face on it right after that happened. And it was it he the person like almost bumped into him or something, like, you know, like right there in front of him. And it was right there when this thought or vision or whatever it was, I can't remember exactly what the details of what led up to it, but the point is there's a mass synchronicity where turn the corner and there's a person with a huge lion face on their sweatshirt right in his face. So, you know, it doesn't, the spiritual, what we have to understand really, the spiritual way, like the spirits and everything, energy, they don't really look at us as far as we look at our hierarchy, as like fame and fortune. How much do we have? You know, how big is our house? How much do we have our bank account? That's on the 3D level of looking at things. But on the spiritual level, they don't look at it like that. They look at how much love you're putting out into the planet, how much love you're open to receive, and that's pretty much the basis of it, and how open you are to the energy. That's how they see abundance. We have to understand that abundance is not seen the same way on the same level on different, in different realms. And when you're talking like about this guest tonight, they're basically looking at the openness of that being. I think it has to do with genetics, but I don't think that's really the basis of it. I think that was kind of his answer too, in a roundabout way, that it could do some part of it, but it doesn't think that because it's on a different level. There's we're talking about two different levels of existence: a 3D physical level, and the the spiritual level, or I think that the spiritual level and ET level, I think it's all one and the same. If we want to group it all together as the phenomenon. But the spiritual level and the phenomenon level is two different things, so separate.
Yeah.
But the same. Sorry, but the same, all in the same. It's separate, but the same, all in the same thought. Sorry.
No, you're great. You're great. Like I said, it resonates. That story. A lot of people, I saw a few people were like, "Whoa, wow, how he's really detailed with it." And so I saw a note or two where someone looked at it and was like, "Well, that can't be true because you remember so many details." And here's what I'll have you realize with that is that sometimes you don't remember everything, sometimes you do. The whole point of it is that when you have an experience, and I think this has been proven in different aspects, is that when you go through a regression, you're tapping into the stored data that you don't recall in your waking consciousness. The data is still there, and it's there for it to be extracted. And then once you go through that experience and have that regression, then you remember the whole story.
Absolutely.
And then it's like, wow, the data was always all there, the entire experience that you had. So let's not look at it in that way. I felt listening to that with so many things that resonated with things that I've felt and gone through myself. I'm on board with the experience. He talks about a lot of the things that a lot of abductees have talked about as well. The description of the event in the same fashion. There's a lot there that feels really genuine to me. And that's what I'll say about that. What do you think about that?
Yeah. I think everybody, you can't judge. You just can't judge someone's story, especially you just have to like feel them out. Like I felt like he was, regardless of what quote unquote actually happened, like I feel like he was telling the truth, like of what he experienced. And like, who are we to judge like that? Because we've all had experiences, especially if you're listening to the show right now, or in the future, like you've had an experience, and so you can't judge someone else for trying to share, like, there's these guys ain't making any money coming on here or anything like that, and it, he ain't selling a ton of books or anything like that. He's just coming on here to share his heart and share his story. So like, who are we to judge that? That's how I feel about it. And as far as the regression thing, like it's kind of been proven. I mean, look at Dolores Cannon's work. Like some of her books are right behind me on the bookshelf right here. The convoluted universe, volunteers, things like that. The three phases of volunteers. She has so many books out there, and we're just talking about one person that's kind of proven through a mass amount of data that this is possible. Like she was regressing people and then going across, moving a couple states away and a couple days later and doing a separate regression, and the story would continue from the person before to the person now. The whole story would continue under regression. And it was not the regression of the person, it was a story that was a message that was being relayed through these people that she was regressing. So it's the my point in saying that is to like spotlight that the possibilities are endless, and the things that Dolores talks about in her books and others. There's another one that's actually channeling and working with Dolores on the other side now. Her name's Sarah. I can't remember her last name. She's really famous. I could probably get her on. I've been talking to her, but she's a level 3 QHHT master, so and widely known. So this thing's we're only at the beginning. Like we're just now starting to pop the can open on what's these possibilities. And yeah, I think we're going to see more and more guests like this. And I think we're going to see go through a phase where we're going to see guests come on, and there's going to be face-to-face encounters. I think more and more people are going to come out and be talking about their face-to-face encounters. If you watch this interview that I did in Vegas, you'll see when I start talking about my face-to-face encounters, it's hard for me to talk about it, because it's just I know even while talking about it is a lot of people are gonna have things to say about it. So just starting to talk about it, is a big thing. So we have to support each other. I mean, because there's a lot of nuggets of truth in each and every one of these experiences.
Let me tell you this. I have anxiety. I have dread every moment when I'm alone by myself. I have this dreadful feeling that I'm going to look to the left, or I'm going to walk through this door, and right over here is going to be that contact experience for me, and it's only based on the experiences that I've had. When you go through the experiences that I've had, and the way that they sort of escalate, as I talk to the guest about, but they sort of progress into this point to where it feels like the next natural thing to happen, according to what I've been through, seems like it would be some sort of contact. Now, have I had contact before? I probably have, and that's probably what I'll find out after being regressed. So it's probably actually a normal thing for me. I'm talking about in my conscious waking life right now, not being under some sort of hypnosis. And I'm talking about leave the studio tonight, and I walk around that dark corner, and it's the encounter, that I'm dreading. And I think going through a regression might help me deal with that, because I feel like I have probably already had something. And I think knowing that, I don't know if it will add to my dread or if it will kind of alleviate the dread, right? I don't know. And that's why I asked him, like, it hadn't happened in a while, which is another thing that even like with my own experiences, they haven't happened for a while. You guys think last summer was the last time something happened, and you don't know if it's ever going to happen again, or it could happen again. And it's like, if it does, what is that next thing that happens? And I'm kind of living in that. If anybody understands what I'm saying, that's what I'm living in right now.
I totally get it. But every experience that you've had, it's kind of just come up on you, right? Like if you think back on it, it's kind of just happened. And you were just in the experience, you look up and see something like your experience of filming the flotilla. You were just out there, and nothing, there was really no anxiety leading up to it. It just happened.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't it be the same? And you got to think, like, you got to, it's about perception. Like we talk about, our mind's a very powerful thing, and that's true. I'm not saying like our mind's making this stuff up, but there's also a free will thing. Like there's no hierarchy in the beings. Like even though that's advanced civilization consciously, there's really no hierarchy because we're all connected to the same source. If we remember that, we have the same hierarchy as those beings, so we can be like, okay, I want this to happen in a comfortable way. And subconsciously, I think that's what we're doing, because every time I've had experience, there was no anxiety leading up to it. It just happened.
Yeah.
You know, I just found myself in the middle of a experience.
I'm hoping that that's the case. I'm hoping that that's the case, Drew. I really am. I really am, because if it isn't, you know, I'll be right here to tell you and hopefully bring some receipts, because I have receipts for everything else.
Or maybe you won't be here.
Or maybe I won't, right? Because we know, well, we don't know, but we figure that the only people, what they say, only dead men can't tell tales, right? So the only people that got brought back are the ones that can talk about it. So maybe there's some that haven't, and maybe that be me, and I hope not. But you know, if I get the pleasure to come back, you know, I will definitely be reporting on that and telling exactly all the details.
We have Steve Stockton has a whole segment that is normally on the show about missing people. So I'm just saying, it's a numbers game. If we're looking at numbers, like there's a lot of people missing, and there's only a few people coming out talking about being abducted. So
that's true.
I don't know, man.
Have Steve Stockton, yeah, it'd be
tie yourself down, tie yourself to the bedpost tonight. That's my advice.
They did that on this show called Resident Alien, and that's one of, and I'm going to promote that show for a moment, because the people who created the show and work on the show are actual experiencers themselves. So you see a lot of those nuggets in the show. If you've never watched it, it's on Sci-Fi. I think they moved over to the USA channel now. Either way, just type in Resident Alien. They have 3 full seasons. You should watch it if you haven't. But you'll catch a lot of the fine details from experiences, like a lot of the things that you hear from, you know, heart-wrenching experiences. They put a little comedy on it, but they're true to the details of the experience, which I think is really awesome. And I know they have a season 4 that they're about to release at the end of this year, and I'm just sitting back waiting for that. I binge watched all 3 seasons, and it was like I was telling my girl, I kept turning to her and saying, that's real, like that happens right there. And one of the scenes was the lady she found out, she realized she was being taken, and that the baby had been removed, and then, spoiler alert, the baby had been removed, and she started handcuffing herself to the bed to try to avoid being taken. And it was just one of those moments where you feel that helplessness, because that's the dread and the thing I'm feeling, like I don't know if I want to go, you know what I mean? And that's the sort of thing that was portrayed in the shows. We got about 30 seconds left. You got anything to say? Anything to leave with?
Free will, man. I think free will dictates a lot of things. So I think if we stay in that understanding, you know, do your research and stay in that understanding, I think that'll protect you a lot.
That is awesome stuff. We definitely want to thank Justin Bush for spending so much time with us tonight and opening up with all these stories and experiences, so that we know, as we say at the end of the show, phenomena is real, right? So that means everything is possible. We also want to thank Drew Banke for stepping in with the After Hours wrap up. We want to thank Steve Stockton for kind of being here, but we didn't get to play you. Sorry, Steve. Next time we got you for sure. We also want to thank you guys out there, each and every one of you. We also want to thank this guy, Ron Mumble for Thought, the man that rocks us out each and every weekend, as he tells us to never say never again, because yes, the phenomena is real, which means anything and everything is possible. If you love the conversation tonight and what you got from the show tonight, make sure you throw your horns up as well. We also want to thank our viewers and listeners from whenever and wherever in the world you may be listening from. Thank you for tuning your frequency to Spaced Out Radio, where we do what we do best. And what's that, Drew Banke?
We own the night.
We own the night. This show is copyright SOR Media Ventures Limited, Spaced Out Radio. It has been a pleasure once again serving you as your host. I am Mr. Rob G. That's Drew Banky. This is the After Hours Radio Show. And to all you space travelers out there, this isn't a goodbye nor a farewell. However, you can best believe as we go off air for the night, we'll be right back here, same time, same place. Make sure you're here and bring a friend. Thanks for coming in tonight. You guys have a great rest of your night. Take care. We are clear. Great show, great show, great show. Appreciate that. Also, thank you for the awesome super chat. Anonymous Rex, aka Tim Senor, stepped in the building saying, "Sweet Robbie G, rocking the after hours life." Do appreciate you coming through, man. It's been a long time, man. Reach out. Miss you, buddy. Also want to thank all of our other super chatters tonight. Richard Minnick, who came in early. Happy Saturday evening. Miss Catherine Jones, showing love tonight. Major Lee, welcome to the show. Coming in clutch. Bob Thorson as well. Awesome stuff. And then Kim Jellen left an awesome comment. She said, interesting combo tonight. Well done, Mr. Rob G. Thank you, Kim Jellen. That is always awesome to hear as we pump these shows out and try to do things, have conversations to move the needle. We'll continue to do that as always right here on Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show. Drew Banky, anything else before we go?
Nothing much, man. That's see everyone next time.
Yes, you definitely will. If you missed any of the show, make sure you hop on the archives, youtube.com/@spacedoutradio. Outside of that, guys, you know how we end the show. We want retribution, and that's what we're going to get on a Saturday night. You guys all have a great rest of your night. See you tomorrow. Take care.
Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution.